Hi, welcome back, everyone. This is your friend Greedy Fanfics, bringing you another fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the second part of What If Deku Became a Quirkless Archer. All credit for this story goes to Dr. Quirkless and wife, so please support them by checking out the link in the description for more details. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Now, let's get into the fanfic. Brand new archery gear. My brand new archery gear. Mom bought me the gear yesterday, top tier, custom fit, the kind real archers use. She said my instructor convinced her to buy me this whole archery kit as a present, considering it's been a long time since I started, and apparently he convinced of my seriousness about this bow and arrow stuff. She practically floated into my room, her smile brighter than I'd seen in years, declaring I'd earned it, after my instructor had sung my praises. I shared her excitement, really. It was like she didn't doubt me. Maybe she thought I could be a hero as well. Maybe she'd finally see past my quirklessness. Well, this all happened after my mom frantically scheduled a meeting with Coach when I returned home with Kentaro looking like I'd been run over a flaming semi-truck. She was basically inconsolable while me and Kentaro tried our best to come up with a reasonable excuse. In the end, Coach saved our asses and Kentaro and I did eventually get to watch Spider-Man. So much for first impressions. I shake my head at the memory and bounce out my front door with my trusty new gear strapped securely to my body. Dagoba's where Kentaro and I spend our afternoons turning trash into makeshift training grounds. Strength training, hoisting soaked, sand-filled debris. Agility drills, darting through obstacle courses like stray cats leaping across city rooftops. Target practice, hitting discarded bottles and cans mid-dash. It's a poor man's version of hero training, but for me, it's real. If I could, I'd ditch school altogether. There's only a couple of months left, but each day still feels like a lifetime. It eats away at me, a yawning sinkhole of fluorescent lights and hollow promises. Teachers ramble on about nurturing students and protecting our future heroes. But their words are as weightless as dust. They don't stop the cruel jokes, the invisible lines that separate those with quirks from those without. I can't walk through the halls without feeling like the walls are closing in, compressing my body until all that's left is an oozing mess of flesh and bones. Maybe if I were even a fraction as strong as All Might, maybe it'd all be different. Maybe I'd be different. The thought curdles in my chest like sour milk, thick and nauseating as I take a detour down a narrow back street on my way to the train station. The air feels different here, damp and cool under the tunnel's shadow, like the world is holding its breath. I stop, square my shoulders, and let out a deep, booming laugh. I am here! I shout, mimicking All Might's signature call. The words echo back at me, bouncing off the concrete and into the lonely silence, like a punch landing on empty air. It's a decent impression. If I'm being honest, Kentaro would probably crack up. But here, beneath this bridge, with no one around to hear, it's just a hollow imitation. That's when I hear a wet, slithering noise creeping up behind me. I whip around just in time to see a silhouette of something thick and grotesque lunging at me. Before I can even blink, the thing slams into my side like a speeding car flying to hit a pedestrian, sending me sprawling across the pavement. The impact knocks the breath from my lungs in a sharp, agonizing rush. What the dash? I wheeze, my voice ragged as I scramble to get air into my burning chest. A low, gurgling laugh echoes in the tunnel, thick and twisted. I turn to face it and finally see the source, an oozing, putrid mass of greenish sludge, its form shifting and swirling like oil on water. Malformed eyes leer out from the grotesque mess while yellowing bestial teeth gnash together. Perfect! It sneers, the voice dripping with malicious satisfaction. I needed a new skin suit. Don't bother struggling, kid, it'll be over in a moment. The words freeze the blood in my veins. A new skin suit? Panic takes over, raw and animalistic. I scramble backward, my palms scraping against the concrete, fingers slipping over the rough, wet surface. A shape-shifting quirk? Does it have a physical form? It feels fluid like water. Skin suit, echoes in my mind again. If he needs a skin suit, does that mean he doesn't have a corporeal form? The air feels thick, the tunnel narrowing, and the creature's foul stench like sewage, rot, and decay clogs my throat, making it impossible to breathe. Slowly, a horrid thought crept into my mind, the hairs on my neck standing on end. It's going to replace all the water in my body and make me a walking, talking corpse. It lunges again, and this time, the slime wraps around my legs, cold and suffocating. It winds up my body like a constrictor, squeezing the life out of me inch by inch. My heart slams against my ribs, my mind racing. No, no, no. I claw at it, but my hands pass uselessly through the sludge, my fingers unable to grasp anything solid. It's like trying to fight smoke. I rack my brain frantically. Weakness, what's a weakness? How do you fight against water? My chest tightens. Every breath is shallower than the last, as if the air itself is being pulled from my lungs. I try to scream for help, but the sound comes out as a broken, strangled gasp. The world is blurring, spinning. My vision tunnels dark at the edges. I can't die here. I can't. But the sludge is relentless, suffocating, heavy. My muscles burn with the effort to fight, but it's no use. I'm drowning on dry land, each breath harder than the last. My limbs go slack as the weight of the creature presses in from every side. The villain's words pierce the fog of my failing consciousness. You're my hero, kid! My mind reels. Is this it? Is this how it ends? I can't breathe. My throat is burning. My lungs are on fire. Tears well in my eyes, blurring the dim light of the tunnel. My hands claw at nothing, bilious liquid swirling around my body and lungs, drenching me inside and out. My body thrashes in vain as I gag incessantly. It's useless. I'm useless. I'm dying, just like they said I would. My chest heaves, but there's no air left to pull in. My heart pounds, hammering against my skull like it's trying to escape the prison of my body. The pressure is unbearable, my brain screaming for oxygen, my limbs tingling like seismic shockwaves. I'm fading. It's over. Mom. Kentaro. I'm sorry. As darkness closes in, a sharp voice breaks through the haze. I am here. My cheek stings, a light, repetitive tap pulling me from unconsciousness. My eyes flutter open, the world around me coming into focus: azure sky, the overhead tunnel, the hard pavement beneath me. What happened? Where's the sludge villain? Hey! A booming voice snaps me from my daze. I jerk my head toward the source. Blonde hair spiked like lightning. A jaw so chiseled it could cut stone. And the unmistakable, towering frame. Blue. White. Red. Yellow. No way. All Might? I bolt upright with a startled scream, my heart pounding like a jackhammer, adrenaline surging through my veins. It's as if every neuron in my brain has short-circuited, unable to process the fact that the number one hero All Might is crouched down beside me. All Might chuckles, clearly taken aback by my outburst. Well, I'm glad you're okay, young man. You gave me quite a scare there. All Might saved me. My chest tightens with a rush of awe, disbelief, and sheer exhilaration. Before I can fully process the thought, All Might straightens up. Well, no time to dawdle. I must be going. Wait. I scramble to my feet, trying to stop him. Please, can I get your autograph? All Might grins that iconic smile. Already done, my boy. Confused, I glance down and spot my backpack on the ground next to me. My hero analysis for the future notebook number 13, specifically, is open to a page dedicated to All Might. And right across it, in bold, sweeping letters, is All Might's signature. My jaw drops. I bow deeply, my voice shaking. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. All right. All Might stretches, loosening up his muscles in preparation to leap away. I stare up at him, breathless. He saved me. Me. I met him, face to face. This moment, it's once in a lifetime. Izuku, take it all in. This is your chance. Don't let him go without saying something. My heart pounds, the enormity of it all crashing down on me. But before my mind can catch up, my legs spring into action. All Might leaps into the air, and suddenly my arms shoot out, wrapping tightly around his leg. We're airborne. Please tell me I didn't just do that. I scream, the wind tearing at my face as we soar higher. All Might glances down, his eyes wide with shock. What the dash? Kid, let go! He starts pulling at me, trying to pry me off like a piece of stubborn gum stuck to his boot. Wait! Don't let go! I'll die! I cry, my voice rising in panic as the ground spins far beneath us, the wind whipping through my hair, distorting my face. All Might pauses, his expression deadpan. Huh! Good point. I cling tighter, eyes squeezed shut. Izuku, you idiot! What the fuck were you thinking? Because I have a dream. Because I need to know. After what feels like an eternity, All Might lands with a heavy thud on a nearby rooftop. I roll off his leg, gasping for breath. The ground feels solid and safe beneath me again, but my body is trembling from the sheer rush of adrenaline. I feel for my archery gear on my back, sighing a breath of relief. It's still there. That was an incredibly foolish thing to do, young man. All Might scolds, brushing himself off. His eyes narrow as he prepares to leap away again. Wait! I gasp, breathless but determined. I need to ask you something. I have to. All Might turns, his smile fading. He looks away, coughing loud and rough, like something stuck in his throat. I barely notice. My body feels like it's been through a blender, my limbs shaky and weak, my breath ragged, and my throat burns. But I don't care. Not anymore. I have to know. If All Might thinks I can do it, if he believes in me, then it won't matter what anyone else thinks. My classmates' voices, Bakugo's taunts, even my mom's worries, they'll all fade. It'll all be okay. All Might finishes his cough, his posture stiff. He doesn't look at me directly, but there's something different in his expression now, something less certain. This is my chance. I have to ask. Can I be a hero, even without a quirk? I ask, my voice trembling with a fragile hope, each word wrapped in desperate longing. Can someone like me become like you? I close my eyes, rehearsing the lines I've practiced countless times. This is it, Izuku. Say it. I want to save people with a fearless smile. I don't have a quirk, but I'm good with a bow, you know. I'm a great shot. All Might's coughing suddenly grows worse, his body shuddering violently. Shit! He mutters, his voice strained. My eyes snap open, alarmed. But the person before me. It's not All Might. A frail, sickly figure stands in his place, his once powerful body now withered and gaunt, clothes hanging loosely off his thin frame. His yellow hair droops lifelessly, a poor shadow of the mighty hero I'd just seen. I blink, heart pounding. This can't be All Might. The man before me looks back, his expression a mix of frustration and exhaustion. His eyes burn with anger, but there's also something else, something tired and defeated. Well, now you've seen me like this. Don't go spreading this online. He sighs, lifting his baggy white shirt to reveal a grotesque scar that stretches across his torso. 5 years ago, I got this injury from an enemy attack. I'm weak now. I can only do hero work for about 3 hours a day. He pauses, his voice bitter. The symbol of peace can't be defeated by evil, after all. Oh. It's all I can manage. The words feel heavy in my mouth, weighed down by the sudden realization that my hero is not invincible. Seeing him like this, it feels like a knife twisting in my gut. And if I were to say you could become a hero without a quirk, he adds, his tone flat, that would be a lie. A gunshot rings in my ears. A lie. The knife in my gut twists harder. I see. I try to keep my voice steady, but the hurt is too deep, too raw. I've heard this before. From teachers. From classmates. From him. But coming from All Might, the hero I've idolized my whole life, it feels like my chest is caving in. I bite my lip, forcing back the tears. Don't cry. Not in front of him. Even with my archery skills? I ask, the words barely a whisper. All Might no, the man in front of me shakes his head. Without a quirk? No. It's not possible to be a hero. I can't shoot. My voice cracks, my heart pounding faster. I might not have a quirk, but I'm like a runner without arms. I still have my legs. I can run. I have a skill. I just need a chance. I'm pleading now, my voice shaky, on the verge of breaking. Don't give up. Don't give up. My head spins. Can I still be a hero? All Might small, spindly, and nothing like the symbol of peace I've always believed in lets out a heavy sigh. No smile. No warmth. No confidence. Just cold reality. If you really want to help people, he begins slowly, there are other ways. You could become a police officer. They get a lot of shit because the heroes catch the villains, but it's a fine profession. It's not bad to have a dream, young man, but make sure your dreams are attainable. Realistic. Understand? You have to face reality. Each word feels like another blow. My dream, my hope, it's crumbling, slipping through my fingers no matter how hard I try to hold on to it. I nod, unable to speak. His words echo in my head. Realistic. Face reality. I bow my head, staring at the ground, feeling the weight of my shattered dream beneath me, broken like a vase All Might had just crushed underfoot. It had already been cracking for years, small fractures splitting it apart in places where my hope had once been solid. But Kentaro found the glue, his words mending the breaks, piecing together what was left of my faith. Now, though, those pieces feel too small to recover. Some of the biggest fragments are missing. I don't know how to fix this anymore. To tell you you can be a hero, kid, All Might says, his voice distant and cold, would be telling you to go get yourself killed. The words land like blows, each one heavier than the last. I can't reply. I'm afraid my voice will betray me, crack, shatter, just like my dream has. I want to stand tall, to show All Might that I'm handling this, that I'm okay. I want him to believe that I'm strong enough to take this, even if it's all a lie. Even if every part of me is falling apart on the inside. He curses under his breath, fumbling with his pants, searching for something. Ah, shit. The villain must have fallen out while we were in the air. Look, I gotta get going. And just like that, he puffs up again. All Might, the great symbol of peace, the hero whose smile could save anyone. I see it now, the transformation, his muscles swelling, his chest rising, as if he's just a bird fluffing up his feathers. But I know the truth now. I've seen the real All Might, weak and sickly, barely holding himself together. And yet, even now, he hides it, because the world needs a hero. I guess I did too. All Might's gone now. He took my dream with him, ripped it right out of my hands. The tears come suddenly, freely, as though they've been waiting for this moment to be set loose. They fall like rain, drenching my cheeks. I don't even try to stop them. There's no point anymore. I sob, collapsing to my knees, pulling them tight to my chest like they're the only thing keeping me together. Bakugo was right. Everyone was right. The sobs come again, violent and uncontrollable, shaking my entire body with every breath. They rack through me, heavy and painful, the tears carving fresh paths down my face, leaving salty streaks in their wake. What am I even crying for? Don't fucking cry, Deku. You knew this was your reality. You've always known. What did you expect? Did you really think you could change anything? That you could become someone? I sink to the ground again, my arms limp at my sides. What can someone without a quirk even do in this world? What use is someone like me? I'm just useless. The word feels final this time. The world is so cruel to those of us who don't fit into its mold, who don't have the power to fight back. I'm chained down by this quirkless body, bound to the ground, destined to be nothing more than a spectator in a world of heroes and villains. It doesn't have to weigh anyone else down. The thought is sharp, cutting through the haze of despair like a blade. You don't have to be a burden anymore. I hadn't thought about it, not since I met Kentaro. Not since I felt like my life had purpose again. But now that purpose is gone. My dream, my future, my entire identity, it's all been taken from me. If I can't be a hero, what reason do I have to keep going? Why would Kentaro want to stay by my side when I'm nothing? He doesn't deserve that, and Mom, how long can she keep pretending that her quirkless son is something worth loving? Even with all the love in the world, it's not enough. Two people's love isn't enough to save someone who's drowning. And I'm drowning. I've been drowning for so long. I stand up, moving toward the edge of the rooftop once more, world hazy. The wind brushes against my skin, cold and biting, like the only thing left in this world that still acknowledges me. I lean over the edge and stare at the leering drop below me, my heart beating rapidly. I want it to end. I want it all to be over. I'm so tired. A thunderous explosion shatters the silence, the shockwave rattling the building beneath me. The ledge trembles, and for a split second, I forget why I'm here. My body reacts before my mind catches up. I flinch, stumble, and crash onto the cold concrete, pain jolting through me. My breath stutters, my pulse hammering like a war drum in my ears. Bakugo? No. I shake my head, the thought bitter. Not every explosion is Bakugo. What was that then? I turned to look in the direction of the explosion to see a billowing cloud of smoke and dust emanating downtown. My heart itches to investigate. No, Izuku, it's probably just All Might recapturing the sludge villain. Wait. Shit. The villain escaped because of me, because I was stupid enough to cling to All Might's words, desperate for him to tell me what I wanted to hear. Desperate for him to say that I could be a hero. That I could be someone. But of course, he doesn't believe that. How could I have ever believed he would? My heart begins racing for an entirely different reason. What if someone's suffering the same fate I am? Will they be okay? What if they died because of my stupid mistake? I consider the situation. All Might is there saving the day. They don't need help from me. Unless his time limit is up? I shudder with the weight of this new knowledge before swallowing it and hiding it in the deep crevices of my mind. Stop finding excuses to follow villain fights, Deku. You need to give it up. Another explosion echoes in the distance, and my head snaps up toward it, instinctively. My body reacts before my mind can catch up, legs springing out from under me, forcing me to stand. I rush to the edge of the rooftop, my heart pounding in my chest, yearning for just a glimpse of the battle heroes, villains, chaos, everything I wanted to be a part of but never could. This is going to become a habit. The bitter thought creeps in, gnawing at the edges of my mind. Watching from the sidelines. Always watching. I turn my back on the scene. Face reality, Izuku. I drag myself away from the edge, each step heavier than the last, stumbling toward a stairwell tucked into some random building. I don't even remember how I found it. My feet are moving on their own, a force of habit, something ingrained in me, always searching for a way out, even when I don't want one. I wipe my eyes with the back of my sleeve, forcing myself to focus on something, anything else. The bough on my back thuds softly against me with every step. Focus on that. My mind clings to the sensation. The rhythm of the bough. My new bough. It's supposed to make me better, supposed to be another tool to help me survive. But even that skill, archery, is just another reminder of how far I am from being a hero. What kind of hero relies purely on their weapon? I press on, my legs carrying me forward, unthinking. Dagobah Beach. Kentaro's waiting for me. The thought should comfort me, should make me feel grounded, but it doesn't. It only makes me feel hollow. My feet move toward the beach on their own as I fight to stay surfaced in my own mind. Suddenly, I'm caught in the push of a crowd, bodies pressing in from all sides, trapping me. I blink, startled, realizing where I am. Why are the heroes just standing there? A panicked voice rises from the throng of people. Concern, frustration, helplessness, it's all mixed in the air, thick and suffocating. They can't do anything. Another voice explains, tense with fear. A middle school boy's been captured. He's being held hostage. My heart skips a beat. Shit. I crane my neck, trying to peer through the sea of people. What kind of villain is it? My body acts before my brain can process. Old habits will die hard, won't they? My stomach clenches when I see it. The massive, hulking sludge villain, its grotesque, gloopy form enveloping a small, struggling figure. No. My blood turns to ice. No, no, no. It's him. It's the same villain. The one I let escape. I knew it. Yet seeing him again, sludge wrapped around another victim, sends a violent tremor through me, rattling me to my core. This is all my fault. A wave of nausea hits me as the realization sinks in. Someone's going to die, and it's my fault. The weight of it crushes my chest. I can barely breathe. I can barely move. I stare at the boy trapped in the villain's grip, his small frame swallowed by the sludge. He's still fighting, still struggling, even though it must feel hopeless. I almost died. How is he still fighting? How can he bear this? Where are the heroes? Where's All Might? No one can get close. Someone says nearby, their voice shaking. The boy's quirk, combined with the villain's liquid body, makes it too dangerous for any hero to step in. They'll have to wait for someone with a more suitable quirk. Wait. My body goes cold. They're just waiting. My lip quivers, and I bite down hard, trying to stop it, but the tremble won't go away. I'm so sorry, I whisper, barely able to hear my own voice. I'm so sorry. I turn my back on the scene. There's nothing I can do. Nothing. A hero will come. Someone will save him. It's not your place, Deku. You're quirkless. You're nothing. Where's All Might? I beg. He's not coming, my mind whispers. He's not coming because he exhausted himself saving you. That boy is going to die because of you. Another explosion rips through the air, louder this time, and I flinch again, bracing for the impact. My body tenses, half expecting Bakugo's voice to follow, shouting insults, mocking me for even daring to stand here. Not every explosion is Bakugo, you idiot. Not every explosion is. My breath catches in my throat as I glance over my shoulder. The boy. The villain. The sludge is closing in, engulfing him entirely. Bakugo. My mind blanks. My legs surge forward before I can even think. I bolt toward the nearest building, my heart pounding in my chest like it's trying to escape. I can't let this happen. It's not fair. I don't care that he's tormented me since we were kids, that he's crushed me physically, psychologically more times than I can count. None of that matters. Not right now. He won't die. I've hated him. I've feared him. But even then, beneath all the pain and resentment, there's always been something else. Admiration. Bakugo was everything I couldn't be: strong, fearless, always moving forward, blazing his way to the top without hesitation. Even when he pushed me down, even when he made me feel like nothing, there was a part of me that wanted to be just like him. I don't care about the scars he left on me. The bruises, the insults, the way he looked at me like I was worthless. Because I know there's something in him worth saving. I can't stand by and let him die. Not like this. Not because of me. I round the corner, skidding to a stop in a back alley. My eyes scan the side of the building, searching for any way up. There's an external stairwell. I don't even think. I just leap over the railing, grabbing hold of the metal rungs. My muscles scream in protest, but I ignore the pain, forcing myself to climb. Faster, faster. My heart races, my mind a whirlwind of fear and desperation. What the hell am I doing? My brain screams at me, panic rising with every step. What happened to facing reality? What can you even do, you idiot? But my heart pounds back. I can't think. I can't reason. I have to do something. I'm on the roof now, sprinting to the ledge. My breath is shallow, ragged, but my focus is sharper than it's ever been. The thumping of the bow strapped to my back halts as I skid to a stop. I sling it off, the familiar weight expanding with a smooth flick of my wrist. It's instinct by now, second nature. I don't bother with the excess gear, no time for that. My hands fumble, shaking as I manually thread the bowstring, the tension thrumming beneath my fingers. This has to work. Don't screw this up, Izuku. I draw in a breath, forcing my heartbeat to slow as I take aim, locking onto the sludge villain. He's liquid, constantly shifting. He doesn't have a corporeal form. So, I skin for a weak spot, my eyes darting across the mess of his form. I don't need to take him down, I just need an opening. Something, anything for a real hero to swoop in and save Bakugo. He won't die because of me. I draw again, aiming, my mind screaming at the chaos inside me, a twisted knot of fear and adrenaline. Focus. But my heart is hammering, thumping so hard I feel like I might vomit, cry, and collapse all at once. I can't afford any of it. Bakugo is dying right now. Just like you practiced. Breathe. I pull the arrow back to my anchor point, the strain in my arm immediate, the tension flooding through my muscles like fire. My bowstring is taut, quivering with potential. I inhale. My chest tightens as my vision narrows, the world shrinking until all that's left is the target. That's it. His eyes, he'd need functioning eyes to see. Aim. Lock. Release. The sound, the snap of the arrow rings through the air. For a moment, time slows. The world holds its breath as the arrow slices through the space between me and the villain, a thin whistle trailing in its wake. Please hit. Please. Thwop. The arrow slams into its mark, the villain's eye. A screech echoes through the street as the sludge monster reels, blinded on one side. I see the grip on Bakugo falter, just for a split second, just long enough for him to explode free, sending debris flying with a thunderous blast. I hit it. I did something. I actually did it. My stomach churns with a strange mix of pride and fear. Did I just do something illegal? Shit. 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 Bakugo glances up, his eyes searching. His gaze lands on the roof. On me. My heart stutters. I whip my head away, yanking my hood up as fast as I can. My hands tremble as I pull it low over my face, hoping to blend into the shadows. What was I thinking? I'm a hero, my heart whispers, swelling with a small flicker of something familiar yet disjointed. No. You're an idiot, my mind snaps back. What did you just do? I'm tearing apart inside, yanked between those two voices, one that believes, and one that knows better. And then, a sudden crash. All Might bursts onto the scene, his muscular form filling the street as he barrels in, saving Bakugo and flinging him out of harm's way with effortless power. He's fighting the villain again, taking back control of the situation. My heart leaps, a fresh wave of admiration and relief rushing over me. You don't have time to watch. I can hear the words in my head like they're being shouted. Run, Izuku. Now. I spin away from the ledge, sprinting back down the rooftop, ducking into an alley as I race toward the street. My legs are moving fast, too fast, my head bowed low as I weave through the crowded city. What was I thinking? I keep asking myself, the question rattling in my brain with every step. That I could be something? All Might told me to drop it, to let the dream die. But my body didn't listen. My body moved on instinct, on some primal, stupid drive to do something. It wasn't a decision, it was survival, nature, stubbornness. But what does that make me? A fool? A hero? Neither. I shove through the station doors, barely aware of my surroundings as I push myself onto the first train bound for Dagobah. My breath comes in gasps, heart still thumping in my chest, adrenaline pumping through me like fire in my veins. Kentaro. I think, clinging to the one thing that feels solid. I need Kentaro. The train moves beneath me, but I can still feel the soft tremor in my arms from the shot, the bow's weight still hanging on my back. The weight of what I've just done presses down on me, heavier than anything I've carried before. I don't know if I can be a hero. I don't know what I just did was right or wrong, foolish or brave. But I couldn't stand still. I couldn't do nothing. My heart is racing uncontrollably, adrenaline surging through me like wildfire. My chest is tight, breath shallow and ragged. I need him. I need Kentaro to slow my breathing, to hold me, to tell me it's okay. That I'm okay. That Bakugo's okay. Oh God, what if I made things worse? I slump into a seat on the train cart, my body moving on autopilot. It's post-rush hour, so there are only a few people scattered around the cart. My hood is still pulled low over my face, hiding me from the world. I clutch my head in my hands, trying to block out the noise in my mind. But it's everywhere, echoing. The sounds of the scene come flooding back, the chaos, the sirens, the yelling. So much yelling. Fire trucks. Ambulances. Heroes shouting at each other to do something when none of them could. Bullshit. If I fucking Quirkless, pathetic, the one who's been told all my life I could never be a hero if I could do something, then surely, they could have too. But they didn't. Cowards. No. I'm the coward. Not them. I acted on instinct, on desperation. Not heroism. Not strength. Just fear. My heart thrums unevenly, and I feel dizzy. Lost. So confused. What was I thinking? I wasn't. Dagobah Station. A calm, detached voice announces. The train jerks to a halt. I shoot up, bolting out the doors, pushing past the people in my way. I can't slow down. My legs won't stop moving, even though my chest feels like it's on fire from how hard I've been running. I tear down the streets, the city blurring past me, my breath labored but unrelenting. Bakugo almost died because of me. My feet hit the sand. The beach is empty, save for the cool breeze cutting through the night air and the sound of the waves lapping at the shore. I know I'm late. Please don't hate me, Kentaro. Izuku? His voice cuts through my self-absorbed panic. He's standing there, his archery kit slung across his body in the usual chaotic mess, arrows jutting out at odd angles like he couldn't be bothered to organize them. But the look on his face, worried, wide-eyed, hits me harder than any reprimand ever could. Where were you? Are you okay? His voice is gentle, but urgent. My heart pounds in my throat, choking the words before they can leave. I can't speak. I just drop to my knees in the sand, clutching at my sides as I gasp for air. In. Out. In. Out. But it's no use. The panic swirls in my chest, squeezing tighter, suffocating. Kentaro is there in an instant, his hand warm on my shoulder, grounding me. He doesn't say anything at first, just sits with me. His presence alone is enough to loosen the knot in my chest, if only a little. He almost died because of me. I choke out, my voice shaking. The tears fall, spilling over like they've been waiting for this moment, like they've been held back for too long. This isn't the first time he's seen me cry. It won't be the last. Kentaro's grip on my shoulder tightens, his brows furrowed in confusion. Who? What happened? I wipe my face on the sleeve of my hoodie, my breath still unsteady. The villain Bakugo was stuck. I shot it. I dash. The words jumble in my throat, and I can't finish. I can't bring myself to explain how reckless it was, how stupid I was to think I could make a difference. But Kentaro doesn't need the details. He gets it. He always does. He's okay now though, right? He asks, his voice softer. There's no judgment, just that patient, steady tone that I've come to rely on. Yeah. I whisper, almost unsure of it myself. Yeah, he's fine now. I guess. Then what the hell are you worried about? Kentaro gives me a small shake. Dude, you shot a villain. That's badass. I can't help it. A wet chuckle escapes me. Yeah, I guess it was. I didn't stick around though. Maybe I fucked it up even more. I mumble, wiping my eyes again, this time managing a weak smile as I glance up at Kentaro. Not a chance, he says firmly, sitting down next to me in the sand. You wouldn't have stepped in if you didn't need to, right? I'd bet you saved Bakugo's life. He claps me on the back, almost knocking the wind out of me. Quirkless, huh? Well, I don't see anyone else pulling saving their own bullies like that. I laugh, but my chest is still heavy with guilt. I acted on instinct. I didn't think, I just did it. And that's what heroes do, right? They act. They move when no one else does. Kentaro's voice drops a little, his tone serious for once. You're not a coward, Izuku. You're braver than anyone else I know. I stare at the ground, the sand slipping between my fingers as I let his words sink in. Part of me wants to believe him. Part of me wants to tell him he's wrong. But all I manage is a quiet, thanks. We sit there in silence for a while, the sound of the ocean filling the space between us. The cool air feels good against my flushed skin, the adrenaline finally ebbing away. My heart rate slows, my breath evens out. Kentaro stays by my side, his hand still resting on my shoulder, steady and comforting. I think about telling him what All Might said to me, but I decide against it. He doesn't have to know, he looks up to him after all, just like I did. I don't want to ruin that for him. What happened after flashes through my mind, but I stubbornly bury it deep inside my tightest vault. All Might was what got me through the toughest times in my life, and today, what he said ripped the earth from beneath my feet. I was free-falling in an endless abyss. But Kentaro is here, he's always here. He grabbed me and pulled me back up onto flat ground. I don't want to lose that, I can't. After a long pause, Kentaro breaks the quiet, his voice lighter. You know, next time you decide to play hero, maybe let me in on it. Could have made a sick team up. Snort, shaking my head. You would have just gotten in the way. Pfft, yeah right. With my aim? I'd have saved Bakugo and hit the villain twice as fast as you. I roll my eyes, but the smile stays. He's telling the truth anyways, even if I don't admit it. Sure. Kentaro chuckles, standing up and offering me a hand. Come on. Let's get out of here before someone recognizes you as the kid who shot a villain in the eye. I take his hand, pulling myself to my feet, the weight on my chest feeling a little lighter now. Yeah. I guess we better keep my crime-fighting skills under wraps, or something. I jest. You know it, Kentaro says with a wink, slinging his arm around my shoulders as we walk off the beach. And I feel okay. Dagoba Beach has become more than just a place for me and Kentaro. It's our third home. 1. My actual home. 2. Hikarinoi Archery. 3. Dagoba Beach. What was once a landfill of broken bottles, rusted metal, and unidentifiable trash is now a beach, a real, thriving beach. Thanks to us. And now, here we sat, with the sun casting golden rays over the sand, our self-imposed duty finally complete. The waves whispered gently against the shore, and the air carried a faint tang of salt. It was peaceful. Kids played in the shallow water, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic flow of the tide. A couple of runners passed behind us, their sneakers kicking up sand in their wake. This was our silent achievement, that not only had transformed the beach but us too. You know what? Kentaro muttered, his voice low and thoughtful. I think I missed the trash. What? I cocked an unbelieving eyebrow. You're going to tell me that now, after we've spent the last 6 months turning this dump into an actual beach? Kentaro shrugged, a wistful smile tugging at his lips. No more excuses to hold you back after archery and run through our homemade target courses. No more dragging you out of your house to clean up the beach. Something about this feels final. Like you're going to leave me behind, you know? The thought hit me like a punch to the gut. Leave him behind? Here I thought only I was thinking about Kentaro leaving me behind. The thought of leaving you behind has absolutely never crossed my mind. I blurted, urgency cracking through my voice. We can find another beach to clean. Something else to pour our energy into if that's what you want. But I'm not going anywhere, Kentaro. He chuckled softly, though the melancholy lingered in his expression. I know. We're going to be heroes together. I don't even know why I feel like this. I guess I'll just miss our beach. I nodded, the truth of his words settling in my chest. I'll miss it too, I admitted. But we've got bigger things to focus on right now. Entry exams? Kentaro said, his voice seriously grave. We brushed the sand off our clothes and began the walk to the train station. Just the other day, we'd registered for UA's entrance exams, the physical for the hero course and the academic test. If the state of my room is any indicator, you know how I feel about it. Clothes strewn everywhere, plates and cups turning my floor into an obstacle course. My desk had become a shrine to empty energy drink cans. I've been burning the candle at both ends, studying until my brain feels like mush or working out until I collapse. Shout out to that random ᴅᴜᴟ for the advice, I guess, chasing a dream that feels just within reach. Kentaro, on the other hand, has been his usual, annoyingly calm self. Or so I thought. That little outburst earlier, the thing about us drifting apart, it's the first real glimpse of stress I've seen in the coming weeks. It was a comforting thought, really, the fact that even someone like Kentaro isn't invincible. When we filled out the applications together, Kentaro, the wise man he is, pointed out something critical. Yo, Izuku, you better get your kit registered as a support item. I've got to register mine too. Honestly, I'd nearly forgotten. Without my bow and arrow, I'm useless. But registering support items isn't as easy as ticking a box online. You've got to bring them in for inspection, meet with staff, and prove they're safe not just for you but for everyone else. So we were headed towards ᴜᴚ in Mizurufu, gear on my back to get it registered. As soon as we stepped off the train at the station, Kentaro and I practically sprinted up the forested hillside in excitement. There it was, the gates of the Yue High School. Its iconic H silhouette loomed above us, and my heart was pounding, not from the climb, well, a little bit from the climb, but from the bubbling thrill of standing at the threshold of a place where heroes were cultured and created. My throat tightened uncomfortably as the memory of All Might rose to mind, his hollowed, gaunt eyes piercing into mine. This is the place where legends trained. Where All Might trained. Yet my skin didn't prickle with excitement like I hoped it would. Instead, my heat thumped mechanically like the ticking of a broken clock. I swallowed the thought uneasily, feeling it lodge itself beneath my heart like a weight I couldn't shake. When we tried to register online for the practical exam a few days ago, we'd run into a snag with our support items. After a couple of phone calls, we managed to arrange for a security escort to guide us through the campus and help us sort things out with the administration. We then stood awkwardly waiting near the gates, nerves fizzing in our veins like a soda shaken too hard. A tired-looking man in a security uniform sauntered toward us, his expression flat and unimpressed. "Midoriya and Idia?" he droned, his voice heavy with boredom. "Yes, sir. That's us." Kentaro piped up, his enthusiasm a stark contrast to the man's monotone. The guard squinted at us, unimpressed. "Well, hurry up then. You know how many middle schoolers I've had to escort today? If you walk too slowly, I'll make sure you never set foot on this campus again." Kentaro's face drained of color. He darted after the guard, his usual calm completely obliterated. I followed close behind, a nervous prickling at the back of my neck. "He doesn't actually have the power to do that, right?" Kentaro whispered, his voice an octave higher than usual, like he was trying to avoid detection by talking in dog whistle frequencies. I rolled my eyes. "No, he can't." Honestly, I didn't know if that was true, but the last thing we needed was to look like a pair of scared kids in front of UA's staff. Confidence was key, or so I hoped. The truth was, I couldn't shake this foreboding feeling simmering in my gut. Nonetheless, before long we arrived at the administration office. "Thank you, sir," we exclaimed in unison, bowing reflexively. The guard grunted in response, turning to leave. Inside, 2 staff members greeted us warmly. One, a man with a kind smile, glanced at a clipboard. "Idia Kentaro?" "That's me," Kentaro replied, his earlier nervousness melting away in the presence of actual kindness. "Perfect. Let's get your gear registered," the man said, leading Kentaro to a nearby office. That left me with the ginger-haired woman. "You must be Midoriya Izuku," she said, her smile soft and reassuring. "Yes," I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. "Brilliant. So much for exuding confidence." My mind scrambled for something, anything, to say, but all I managed was silence. "Let's have a chat over here," she said gently, gesturing toward a sleek glass desk. She let me go first, and I slid into the chair opposite her, gently placing my archery gear on the ground. It started with her just asking the usual application questions. "What's your name?" she asked, although she already knew that. It was printed neatly on the papers in front of her. She called it when we walked in. "Midoriya Izuku," I replied, my fingers fidgeting restlessly in my lap. She smiled, warm but perfunctory. "Just checking, honey. No need to be nervous." I forced out a laugh, awkward and hollow. "Date of birth?" "July 15th, 2134. She scribbles the short inscription down onto the paper. "And what's your quirk?" The make or break question. My chest tightened as the words formed on my tongue, heavy as lead. I tried to sound confident, but it came out as weak as the words always sounded. "I'm quirkless." For a moment, her expression froze. She glanced at her papers, her brow furrowing as her eyes locked on the words hero course. Then she laughed, loud and disbelieving. "You're not serious, are you?" I feel myself starting to shrink, any scraps of confidence crumbling like a sandcastle in the high tide. My heartbeat drummed in my ears. "I am serious, ma'am," I managed to say, though my voice barely carried the weight of my conviction. "Damn." She laughed. "Let me guess, accidentally signed up for the hero course instead of the general one." "Honey, don't fret, people misclick all the time dash." "No, ma'am," I interrupted, voice trembling with disappointment, the feeling hot and watery in my mouth. "I would like to register a support item." "A support item?" She leaned back in her chair, looking at me as if I was clinically insane. "Support items are for those who need them, people with quirks. You understand that, right? In all of my years here, I have never seen a quirkless kid apply to the Udata Hero course. And for good reason. Our rules are very clear. Support items are only approved if they're necessary for your quirk." She looked at me critically, without remorse. "You don't have one. You're quirkless. Be prepared to fight that way." My heart stopped in my chest. Without my bow I don't stand a chance. All I have is my fists, but what are two fists going to do against a whole group quirked applicants? I wouldn't stand a chance in the entrance exam. I'd have no chance of passing. "Please," I begged, desperation clutching any threads of hope. "Is there a way to apply for an exception? I'm really good with my item, and if I could prove to the board that dash." "You're lucky enough as it is, honey. The equal rights laws make it so we can't outright reject your hero course application. But these rules exist for a reason, your kind's safety. It's best you don't end up in the hero course, not that a quirkless individual would make it past the entrance exams." She tacked on dryly. "Because if you did, you would die in the field. Do you understand? You'd die." She delivered the final blow with a smile, her words dripping with condescension and patronizing sympathy, as if what she was doing wasn't tearing apart my aspirations. I wanted to cry. I wanted to smash that stupid glass table. I wanted to scream at her. All of my efforts, so easily scrunched up into a ball and thrown down a trash chute because of this hypocritic quirkism surrounding everything I do. I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor as I picked up my case. Not uttering a thank you nor a goodbye, and exited the room. Kentaro was waiting for me, with a bright smile on his face as if he hadn't just seen my world crumble. Well, he didn't, I guess. I dashed out the door, a different security guard offering to escort us back to the gates. I bit my lip, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Kentaro already knows. They didn't let you, did they?" he sympathetically states, placing a comforting hand on my back. "We'd promised not to mention it beforehand, that my application might be rejected because I'm quirkless, in case either of us jinxed it. But I guess it doesn't matter anyway. Society always was and always will be exactly the same. Not even a fucking chance." I gritted out through clenched teeth. "And now I won't even make it through the entrance exam. It's over. I'm over. I'm useless without my gear. We both know this. Don't rope me into that assumption." Kentaro argued back. "Dagobah target practice trained more than just our archery skills. We are stronger than we were. We are faster than most people I know. And your mind." He paused, jabbing my shoulder lightly with his fist. You think about your shots, your moves. You plan ahead, even when I can't see what the hell I'm supposed to be planning for. He paused, turning to face me fully. You're smarter than the average quirk user. That's going to count for something. Once you're in the hero course, you can change the rules. You can get your exemption. You'll prove everyone wrong about what being quirkless means, and when you do dash. He grabbed my shoulders, staring me down with fiery determination. You'll be unstoppable. You will be a hero. No matter what obstacles they throw at you. How? I snapped, the frustration spilling over before I could stop it. How am I supposed to do that? We don't even know what the entrance exam's going to be. What if my physical abilities don't mean anything? What if it's all for nothing? Kentaro sighed. We don't know, he admitted, but his voice didn't falter. And that's fine. Maybe you won't even need your bow. But we've trained for this. Do you really think all those hours were for nothing? Don't let it go to waste, Izuku. Don't let it go to waste. He's right. I'd worked too hard to let it all crumble now. I had turned my pathetic little Deku body into something stronger. Archery might have been my specialty, but according to Kentaro, it wasn't all I had. We'd run our own obstacle courses, built speed and agility. We'd cleaned a whole-ass beach, for God's sake. If I let quirkism stop me, that would let the current society win. I would be going against everything I was running for. I would be proving everyone right. If I were going to give up, I would have done so ages ago. You know what you are, Izuku. Kentaro thanked the guard who walked us out the gates. A hero. I tried mustering a weak smile back at him. I knew what I was going to have to face to achieve my dream. I just forgot how hard it is sometimes. That night, after another 2 energy drinks, I worked my full body until my muscles screamed for mercy. Using the little bits of equipment my mom had gradually gifted me to help with my fitness journey, as she calls it, I couldn't waste a moment. Whether that be studying or training, I had to be stronger, faster, smarter. I needed to hold my own without a quirk. Kentaro said it, and while I might not fully require the mentality to embrace the mantra, I kept repeating it. You know what you are, Izuku. A hero. Despite cramming until my brain felt like it was bleeding, the day of the exam loomed before me, like a thunderstorm gathering on the horizon, or worse, a premature ejaculation. When my mother woke me up that morning, her beaming face radiated a level of enthusiasm that felt almost cruel. Izuku. It's time. Your big day. She chirped, practically bouncing. I lurched out of bed, as if the springs in my mattress had hijacked my body. But the moment my feet hit the wooden floor, my knees buckled and my face met the ground with a resounding thud. What a great way to start the day. Izuku. Are you okay? Mom's worried voice sliced through my dazed embarrassment. She hovered over me, fretting like I'd just shattered into pieces. I scrambled to my feet, brushing off the sting of both pain and humiliation. Yeah. I barked out a laugh that was way too loud, scratching the back of my neck sheepishly. She gave me a soft smile, but her eyes searched mine for cracks. You're going to do just fine, sweetie. She cooed, pulling me into a quick hug. I melted into her embrace, praying she was right as I tried to calm the whirlwind of nerves swirling inside of me. You'd better get ready, sweetie. She pulled away and gave me an encouraging look. You don't want to be late. I nodded and darted around my room, grabbing my exam materials and throwing on my favorite loose-fitting athleisure, committing myself to the day ahead. My hands trembled as I tightened the straps on my backpack. The knock on the door was loud enough to startle both of us. Mom rushed to answer, and Kentaro practically burst through, his usual brightness dimmed ever so slightly by a faint shit stain of nerves beneath. You ready, Izuku? He asked, his voice mock grave as he leaned into the doorframe. Ready to kill this exam dead? I stared at him, my confusion plastered all over my face. Sure thing. I laughed, slipping on my shoes and slinging my bag over my shoulder. Bye, Mom. I called absently as we headed out. She yelled something encouraging back, but my heart was already pounding too loudly to hear her clearly. On the train to UA, the carriage hummed with that peculiar, electric tension of pre-exam teens. I noticed a girl sitting a few seats away, her skin a soft pink, her black eyes gleaming with yellow pupils. Horns curved elegantly from her head. A morph quirk. I didn't know exactly what hers entailed, but one thing was certain, she could definitely overpower me. I let the mutterstorm overtake me, words flying out of my mouth as my leg bounced rapidly. Is her pink skin a characteristic passed down from her parents, or is it a side effect of her quirk? I wonder if... Izuku. Kentaro's voice broke through the noise in my head. He tapped my shoulder, his voice low but firm. Stop tweaking, man. You're gonna make me freak out too. I clenched my fists, trying to tether myself back to reality. Sorry, I'm just really nervous, I admitted in a hoarse whisper. You must be nervous too, huh? I'm sorry. It's fine, Izuku. Kentaro cut in, placing his hand firmly on my bouncing leg. Quirk or not, you're going to smash this. Play to your strengths, Izu. Don't just play their game, on it. Change the rules. Show them what a hero really looks like. We will be heroes. Though the anxiety remained, Kentaro's words seeped into my frayed nerves, cooling the panic that had torched its way through my veins, enough for me to reply. We will be heroes. Kentaro grinned, his confidence infectious. Damn right we will. When we stepped off the train and began the trek up the mountain toward the UA gates, I couldn't stop myself from glancing around. Everywhere I looked, there were students hopeful, determined, and buzzing with energy. Their quirks were on full display, flashes of power and individuality that were as inspiring as they were intimidating. The gates stood wide open today, no guards or barriers, just signs pointing us toward the hall where the written exam would take place. It felt less like a school and more like a coliseum. A battleground. But my chest tightened as we approached. My thoughts spiraled. What if that same admin lady saw my name on the exam paper and decided to shred it out of spite? What if everyone here realized I was quirkless and dismissed me as unworthy before I even had a chance to prove myself? Hey moron! Kentaro's voice yanked me, once again, out of my thoughts. He clutched my hand outside the hall. Go beyond, right? We've got this. I mean, I've probably got more to worry about than you do. His laugh lacked its usual warmth, betraying his own nervousness. I shook my head resolutely. You'll be fine, Kentaro. It's me who should be worried. One Quirkless staff member, and my exam paper might not even make it out of this hall. I muttered. That's illegal. He replied flatly, his brow furrowing. I know. The burning hasn't stopped people before, sweltered on the tip of my tongue, but I swallowed the rest of my thoughts, not wanting to add to his stress with my own qualms. Instead, I forced a smile and tried to sound confident. After all, we had to tackle the first exam of the day, the written. We have to kill this exam dead, in Kentaro's very heroic words. We studied for this. We're ready. We'll go great. Ken-taro gave me a wink, his usual brightness shining through despite the tension. He reached over and squeezed my hand. Good luck, Izuku. With that, he walked off to find his seat, and I watched him go, smiling faintly at the back of his head. A wave of longing surged in my chest, weighed down by everything I owed him. If I didn't want to let Ken-taro down, let myself down, I have no choice but to ace this exam right now. The written exam lasted 3 hours, and by the time I finished, I'd poured every shred and drip of knowledge I've ever had onto the paper in front of me. Front to back, I read over my answers 3 times. If I dared to think positively, which felt reckless, I might even say I killed it. Dead. When I stepped out of the exam hall, I lingered near the entrance until I spotted Ken-taro. He looked utterly drained, his hair a little messier than usual and his shoulders slumped. How'd it go? I asked, keeping my voice soft, just in case he'd had a rough time. Not bad. I hope. He laughed, though it sounded more like a groan. I'm so mentally exhausted right now, I could. He trailed off, searching for the words and coming up empty. I don't even know what I could do. That's how tired I am. I laughed, some of the weight in my chest lifting. With one exam down, I felt a little less like I was drowning, though the thought of the next one still loomed. Well, we've got a 2-hour break. We can crack open the energy drinks your mom packed. My mom made you a bento, too. Kentaro's eyes lit up at that, and he groaned with delight. I love your mom. Marry me so I can be her son-in-law. I made a face, pretending to gag. Gross. He smirked and bumped my shoulder playfully. So, how'd your exam go? It went pretty G-. Duh, he interrupted, cutting me off with a smug grin. I told you so. I'm always right, Izuku. Never doubt my genius. Despite myself, I laughed. Somehow, his confidence made the world feel just a little less heavy. I unzipped my bag and pulled out the 2 bento boxes. In response, Kentaro tossed me an energy drink, the can cold against my palm. We ate like starving animals, tearing through our food as if it were the last meal we'd ever have. Once we finished, we silently agreed to spend the last 30 minutes stretching and steeling ourselves for the physical examination. I tried not to think about it, the practical exam. Every bone in my body screamed I was screwed without my gear, but nonetheless I didn't let on to the creeping pit of despair. Hope was a dangerous thing, I knew that. But to get through this, to prove everyone who ever doubted me wrong, teachers, students, parents, even my mother, I can't give up. I can't give up on myself, not yet. This is my chance, my last chance. I repeated the mantra in my head. I will be a hero who sees beyond quirks, who uplifts people. That's what a hero should be. That's what All Might couldn't be. Kentaro, I murmured, the distilled anxiety running through me. Are you ready to go? It all comes down to this. He looked up at me, sunlight catching the fear in his eyes. Fear not just for himself, but for me. I don't want his pity. We will be heroes, I said firmly. We will, he echoed, his voice steadying. We followed the signs around the school until we arrived at the practice grounds where our entry examination would take place. A towering metal wall loomed before us, separating us, the eager, aspiring heroes, from the test that would decide our futures. Behind those gates lay our tomorrow. It's all or nothing now. A man with long yellow hair that defied gravity like the Wicked Witch of the West stepped onto a podium in front of the gates. He raised his hands, miming finger guns, and grinned. Are you guys ready? He shouted, his voice unnaturally loud and over the top, like a deranged game show host. Well, that's who he was, really, among other things, as pro-hero President Mike. I shuddered giddily as his piercing screams scratched my eardrums so cool. The crowd erupted in cheers, a mix of war cries and genuine excitement. Kentaro joined in, hyping himself up with the rest of them. I scanned the crowd, taking in the faces of my competition. Most were rowdy, their nerves masked by noise, but a few stood out silent and focused, as if their futures depended on it because they did. And among them, I saw him. Blonde, spiky hair. Piercing red eyes. A glare so fear-inducing you could sell it on the market as a laxative. Bakugo. My heart skipped a beat, and instinctively, I grabbed Kentaro's arm. He looked over at me, and reached over to touch my hand, his grip tightening in reassurance. His eyes asked the question, "What's wrong?" I didn't answer. Instead, I nodded toward Bakugo. Kentaro followed my gaze, his eyes narrowing as he spotted him stretching just outside the main cluster of students. He's got nothing on you, Kentaro soothed. You know that isn't true, I replied dryly, unable to tear my eyes away. The rough scar on my forearm prickled with a dull, stubborn pain. My bruises had long since faded, ghosts of past wounds, but the faint, palm-shaped imprint remained bold against all the others, a constant reminder I could never erase. He's got a strong quirk, Kentaro admitted. But he's only here because you gave him a chance. If he makes it into the hero course, it'll be because you're awesome, forgiving, and, he added smoothly, his savior. Kentaro snorted dryly. That's if he ever grows up enough to admit it. I elbowed him in the ribs deservedly as I rolled my eyes. Because I supposedly saved Bakugo's life, Kentaro thinks he now owes it to me. Pipsqueaks, enough of the chit-chat! President Mike called out enthusiastically, his quirk amped all the way, making him famously louder than any megaphone. You want to be a hero? Then you better listen up. The crowd hushed diligently. Here are the rules. You don't know what's waiting for you inside these walls, he began, gesturing dramatically to the massive gates. But I can tell you this, it won't be easy. There are 4 obstacles. Each one will be marked with a number. 1 means 1 point. 2 means 2 points. 3 means 3 points. A blue-haired kid with glasses and stiff movements raised his hand. Sir, you said there were 4 obstacles. That's right. The man clicked his finger guns at him, grinning. The 4th obstacle is marked with a 0 points. A decoy obstacle. Got it. I mentally filed the information. Just play to my strengths, I reminded myself, echoing Kentaro's words. Finally! Group 1, the left side of the hall where you took your written test this morning. You'll be entering through door B around the back. Group 2, the right side of the hall. You'll enter through door A, right here. He threw up a pair of outrageously dramatic finger guns as he struck one of his signature poses. Are you ready? An assortment of cheers erupted around me, a cacophony of war cries and excitement. As much as I wanted to revel in the presence of President Mike, I couldn't bring myself to join in. My stomach was clenched painfully, and my jaw even more so. That's when it hit me. Kentaro. We're going to be separated, I said, my voice rising with anxiety. You're going to be fine, he replied, calm as ever. We prepared for this. We've trained for months. I shot him an incredulous look. Yeah. With arrows. Kentaro smirked and jabbed a finger into my chest. You're going to do great. When have I ever led you astray, Izuku? I know what you're capable of. He tapped his finger over my heart. I've seen it in here. I swallowed hard, fighting the nervous bow rising in my throat. Okay, we got this. Right? We got this. Of course we do, Kentaro said with a grin. Now, how about we leave this negative headspace of yours, and focus on passing this exam? He looked over at me pointedly, a sly grin pulling his mouth. Just as I opened my mouth to retort, Bakugo appeared. He cut through a cluster of students, heading for Gate B with the kind of callous force that only he could muster. Out of my way, extras, he growled. Bakugo's gaze landed on me briefly, his usual scowl faltering for a split second. His eyes flicked to Kentaro, then back to me, before he snarled and pushed past without a second glance. I stood frozen, my chest tight, waiting for a blow or sneer that never came. Kentaro's face was a comical mask of shock, his mouth hanging open. I got this, you said? I commented dryly, more to myself than him. Only one way to find out. Well, I'd better get to door B, Kentaro said, fighting a chuckle behind his fist. See you after the exam, hero. Before I could reply or wish him luck, Kentaro punched my arm in encouragement and strode off without a backward glance. It was real now. It was about to start. I shuffled my way through the crowd to Gate A, its massive red letters bearing down at me menacingly. It all comes down to this. President Mick's voice boomed in the distance, beginning a countdown. On cue, kids surged toward the gate turbulently, pressing against it like water trapped in a dam. 5. I joined the mob, staying just behind the press of bodies, close but not touching. 4. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with air that suddenly felt too thin. 3. Glancing to my left and right, I saw girls and boys shoving and jostling, their nerves mirrored in every movement. I held my ground. 2. Quirks flared to life around me, sparks, heat, even a brief gust of wind. I planted my feet, muscles coiled, ready to sprint. 1. The gates swung open, and the flood of students rushed forward, quirks launching some ahead like missiles. I followed hastily, legs pumping, feet barely touching the ground. My brain stuttered in disbelief as I raced through Gate A, the looming red letters preluding into a wide-open interior so colossal it felt unbelievably surreal. The training ground was a vast simulation of residential areas, A bizarre mix of cozy exteriors and soulless interiors as far as my eyes could see. Holy shit, where did they get the budget for this? For a moment, it was eerily quiet, just an orchestra of footsteps echoing throughout the uninhabited streets. Then came the noise. A rumble. A screech. The metallic clatter of movement. Chaos erupted. At first, we all turned instinctively to run as massive robots emerged from the shadows, their shapes towering and aggressive. They charged toward us with terrifying speed. Screams broke out. Fear rippled through the crowd. And then we saw them. Numbers. Small robots, branded with a bold white 1. Medium-sized robots with a 2. Towering machines marked with a massive white 3. The obstacles. Students leapt into action, quirks igniting as they tore into the mechanical creatures. Fuck. 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 The city quickly became a hazy blur of metal and flesh. I watched as a green robot turned its attention to me, its massive claw-like legs clicking menacingly against the ground. It charged, raising one of its legs high. Fuck, I knew I would need my bow. I dove just in time, my instincts kicking in as the leg crashed down where I had stood moments before. Quick, there's no time for what could have been, Izuku. Think. What can I do? Anxiety hit me like a tidal wave, threatening to drown me. How do I take this thing down? Kentaro's voice echoed in my head. Play to your strengths. Change the rules. The robot clunkily turned to face my body, still lying on the pavement. I heard the telltale whir of sensors as it locked onto my position once more, its movements deliberate and unrelenting. I scrambled to my feet and bolted for the nearest alleyway, heartbeat racing in exhilaration. I need time to think, come up with a plan. I whipped my head back, a twisted sense of satisfaction rising within me as the robot kept tracking my every move. Good, it's still following me, its sensory system mustn't be too complex then. I burst into the maw of the alleyway, where sunlight gave way to hushed shadows. Just as my eyes adjusted, I caught on a fire escape clinging to the side of an apartment complex. That's it. Thank fuck this place is overly realistic, down to the very trash cans. I sprinted for the ladder, adrenaline searing my veins as I raced against the impending screech of metal at my heels. I clambered up desperately, not stopping until I was resting on the grated ledge. Taking deep, steadying breaths, I looked downward at the robot, which had come to a standstill, its whirring lenses scanning for my missing body. Good. Just what I wanted. This gave me time. I watched as the robot's eye flickered open, revealing a blinding red laser that bathed the dark alleyway in crimson. Crap, a life form detector. I don't have much time before it either locks onto my position or retreats completely. I analyzed the robot desperately, hands gripping the railing painfully as I scan its frame for vulnerabilities, a weakness, a way to win. At the back of its neck, I spotted a cluster of wires. If I can pull those wires, I can force it to shut down or at least malfunction. Without a second thought, I leapt over the railing and sailed down toward its neck. However, the robot spun around quickly, its massive leg lashing out. The strike caught me midair, throwing my body backward like a rag doll, back slamming against the concrete wall, breath pushed from my lungs as pain exploded like a ruptured dam, flooding every inch of me. I gasped achingly as I fell to the ground. Fuck, how did it know? Was it outmaneuvering me the whole time, playing games with me? How the fuck are they even programmed to do that? No, it's not over yet. My hands trembled, but I forced them to steady. Adrenaline surged as I pushed myself up off the pavement, stubbornly ignoring the uncomfortable aching in my back, movements hazing over into sheer determination. I barely had time to recover as the robot crept closer with unsettling haste. Its leg shot toward me, aiming to spear me against the wall. I rolled just in time. The robot's claw missed my face by inches, its strike digging into the ground instead. Letting out a strangled cry, I scrambled into a crouch, muscles tensed and ready to roll again. I'm going to get these points. The robot loomed over me, its leg poised to strike. I dove out of the way as it crashed down, the impact reverberating through the ground. It paused briefly, recalibrating my position before stalking toward me. Its spider-like legs moved with mechanical precision, lifting another claw high before spiking it toward me with force. I dodged again. "I'm going to rip out your brain, bitch." The pattern was clear. The robot took a moment to retrace my position before locking in and attacking. That gave me about 2.5 seconds to move, or 2.5 seconds to act. I ran, sprinting towards the unassuming dumpster just behind me. 1 second. I pressed my body against the cold metal and I pushed, a guttural scream ripping from my lungs as the dumpster began moving forward. Mentally, I thanked Kentaro for ever suggesting Dagobah Beach as our training ground, as my legs burned like lava but refused to buckle. 2 seconds. I let out a final yell as I used the last of my strength to propel the dumpster toward the robot. I fell to the ground and watched as it raced dangerously towards the large number 1 painted onto its green metal frame. It's going to work. It has to work. With a groaning screech of metal they collided, the hulking machine toppled sideways, crashing to the ground. Yes, yes, yes. Now the wires. I didn't hesitate. Ignoring the ache in my limbs, I scrambled onto its fallen frame. The robot stirred beneath me, attempting to regain its footing. Shit. I have no time, it's now or never. I reached for the wires around its neck, fingers straining, but before I could grab them, a blur flashed in front of me. A hand? The wires were yanked free, and the robot groaned metallically for a few suspended seconds before collapsing lifelessly beneath me. I tumbled off with a thud, the impact jarring my body. No! The words slipped from my lips, a hollow whisper. Beside me, a boy with an elastic arm quirk whooped in celebration. Hell yeah! Another point! His friend snickered. Only 1 point, dude. Don't get too excited. I've got 19 already. Loser! 1 point. I didn't even have 1 point. I stared at the boy, then at the broken robot carcasses littering the training ground. Staring out from the dark alleyway, everywhere I looked there were lifeless machines, destroyed by students who had quirks, students who could actually fight. It had taken me this long just to try and take down a single easy-level robot. I stood there, trembling. Stupid Deku. Stupid Deku. Tears burned my eyes, but I pushed them back, forcing my legs to move. I couldn't give up now. Time was running out. I had to get a point. Just one. Every ally, every street. Devoid of people, all that remains is the slumped corpses of robots. I sprinted from street to street, searching for another robot. Searching for anything. Every alley, every corner I turned, was empty, just more defeated robots. This game isn't meant for people like me. People without quirks. Despair gnawed at my chest, and my heart pounded unevenly, fueling my panic. What chance did I ever have at being a hero? Kentaro is going to hate me. I sprinted down a new street, coming across people fighting their robots, and dared to feel hope. A boy with a laser beam quirk in front of him recklessly blasted through a 3-pointer. The beam came out of his belly button. I noticed a metal band strapped around his waist, a support item? I clenched my jaw painfully as my stomach soured vengefully. All of my training. I didn't finish that thought. There's still time to get points. I won't lose here, I can't. I ran blindly, my mind racing, until I spotted a head of black hair in the distance. Hope sparked to life, and I surged toward it, desperation driving me forward. Tears slipped free now, hot and unchecked. The yellow-haired announcer's grating, mocking voice rang out across the grounds, commentating my living hell. 3 Marie Minidis! No! I screamed, my voice cracking as tears spilled freely down my face. My feet refused to stop, carrying me aimlessly through the streets. Searching. Always searching for a robot, for an opportunity, for a point. Nothing. 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 1 more minute! All of my hard work. My dreams. My entire life. 15 seconds left. It had all been for nothing. 10 seconds. They were right. All of them. I'm just a quirkless, useless Deku. 5 seconds. Kentaro is going to be so disappointed in me. 1 second. I turned my head to the sky, a sick sense of déjà vu trampling through me as I felt the world collapsing around me once again. Time is up. A deafening and resounding beep cut through the air like a guillotine. The crowd began to shift, students moving toward the exits with murmurs of celebration or disappointment. My feet followed, but my mind was blank. So I walked. Out of the training grounds. Out of UA's gates. I didn't wait for Kentaro. I didn't want to see the look on his face, the disappointment, the anger, the way he'd probably hate me now for ruining his dream, ruining our dream. This was better, wasn't it? Kentaro would go to UA, make new friends, grow stronger, become the kind of hero people look up to on TV, and he'd do it all without me holding him back. I held on to that small comfort, and pretended my heart wasn't cracking with every step I took. What's next? I had no backup plan. I believed that if I gave everything to becoming a hero, left the world no other choice, then I would become one. I'd thought it was inevitable. But it wasn't. I gambled all my chips on UA and now I have nothing left to bet on. What do I do now? What are your thoughts on our first ever quirkless applicant, Izuku-sensei? A small, white, fluffy rat queried, overly excited. A gruff, unshaven face studied the green-haired applicant before him, then answered dryly from within a yellow cocoon. You know these exams are biased toward powerful quirk users. He frowned. However, you need to understand when you're at a disadvantage, and for a guy like him, that's gonna be 9 times out of 10. A good observation, the rat replied. With a heavy sigh, Izuku-sensei muttered. The first thing he should have done was apply for a support item. If you don't have the foresight to play to your strengths, then you're not gonna make it as a pro, and that's exactly why he failed. Pluto. Pluto drifts distant and forgotten, slipping further into the void. Stripped of its title by the age of 4, abandoned by the system it once belonged to. I stood in that arena, countless eyes scorching like the distant sun, Mercury glowering, Venus judging, Saturn looming. Every eye watching me crumble to ash. I never stopped to wonder what my life would look like if I didn't make it. I had no other plan, no other goal, just the belief that I could force the universe to yield, to accept me. But the truth is undeniable. I failed. I could train, I could fight, I could beg to defy gravity feudal gestures. In the end, Pluto was always meant to erode without its magnetic heart, without a quirk. Cleaning the beach, training with a bow, pushing the limits, those were just hobbies to keep me from tipping, they held no meaning. After all, Pluto is wearing away. It's inevitable. Desperately clenching the distant sun's warmth, hoping to slingshot itself forwards, but the universe had already decided its trajectory. Some planets are meant to bask in the sun while others are doomed to wander the cold. The phone on my bedside table buzzes like a trapped insect, vibrating against the wood with every incoming text. 58 unread messages. 13 missed calls. I know it's him. I don't reach for it. I can't. Kentaro doesn't need me anymore. My usefulness has run its course, like a promise written in the sand, biding time before the tide overwhelms it. This room, once warm and alive with hope, feels devoid of life now. As if a reaper had sucked out my core, leaving me hollow and gaping desolate. The posters on the walls are strangers, once fueled with inspiration, now glare down at me with pity. The All Might comforter feels cold, like a relic from a life that doesn't belong to me anymore. Maybe it never did. Maybe the foreignness isn't the room at all. Maybe it's me. I was a blind fool sprinting toward the edge of a cliff while everyone around me shouted warnings I refused to hear. And now, as I lie here in the aftermath, I realize they were all right, that I should have listened. I was the problem. Not the system. Not society. Me. This world isn't about looking past quirks. It's about worshipping them. Power is what defines us. And without a quirk, you are nothing. I should be the poster child for that truth. My face should be plastered on every billboard as a cautionary tale. Don't be this quirkless idiot. But the worst part is, Kentaro believed in me. He believed in us. But I've ruined that too. He doesn't know yet. He doesn't know I've shattered his dream of us becoming heroes side by side. but he'll find out soon enough. Because he'll make it. Kentaro will become a hero, a real one, and he'll shine so brightly that the world won't even notice the shadow I leave behind. And when that day comes, he'll look back and wonder why he ever bothered with someone like me, an aimless, hopeless, worthless, stupid, quirkless Deku. A soft knock pulls my attention. The door slides open, uninvited, revealing a sliver of dim light from the hallway. "Baby!" My mother's worried face appears in the gap of the door, her voice gentle and thick with concern. "Can we talk about what happened?" I don't want to answer her, to tell her anything. Instead, my throat closes up instinctually as my head slumps, the weight of failure dragging me down. I was embarrassed. The thought of telling her that after all this time, effort, and stubborn grit that I was wrong felt like vomiting humiliation. The last 24 hours have been a haze of suffocating inertia. I've ignored everything: unopened meals, the phone's insistent tremor, the world's muffled hum, all unanswered calls. I'm adrift in a suffocating silence, a slow, deliberate submersion. Light bleeds away, and with each sinking second, the surface recedes, an unreachable horizon in a deepening abyss. I turn inward, staring into the vast, black chasm inside me. I search for a shining beacon, a guiding light to illuminate the answer to my existence. If I can just find the root of what's wrong with me, maybe I can fix it, or find an antidote, or tear it out of me. But that's the same naive part of me that clung to a dream when I was 4 years old, the child who learned too young that not everyone is born equal. That child latched onto a fraying rope, believing that if he just held tight enough, he could climb out of this darkness. But now the rope is cut. And I am falling. "Izuku, you're scaring me." My mother's voice trembled as she tiptoed toward me, clutching a letter in her hands like it might bite her. Her eyes darted to mine, searching for something she couldn't name. "Are you sure you don't want to talk about it?" Her voice was quiet, trepid, and unsure. I sat up, silent, refusing to look into her eyes, and stretched out my hand. "Might as well get it over with." "Oh?" Her voice fell. I could feel the quiet disappointment leaching from her like an open wound. "Okay. If that's what you want, baby." She placed the envelope in my palm. "You know I'm always here if you need me, right?" She offered a bittersweet smile. The bright red UA seal glared back at me. I nodded absent-mindedly, the color red mocking me with its slick, waxy sheen. I didn't need to open it to know what lay inside. The truth was already coiled around my chest, squeezing tight. Rejection. The indecisive shuffling of my mom's feet itched at my ears. It was obvious she couldn't decide whether to leave or stay. I wasn't sure either. Fuck, just get it over with. I bit my lip and tore it open, as if ripping a band-aid off too slowly, catching on every agonizing hair in the process. A dwindling hope flickering weakly inside my heart. From the tatters, a hologram burst to life, and All Might himself leapt into view. My mother gasped at the sight of him, but I couldn't bring myself to feel any surprise. It felt almost appropriate in a way. If anyone had to deliver the news, why not All Might? "I am here! In hologram form!" All Might's booming voice pierced the room, the same enthusiasm he carried when saving lives. "Well done on completing the UA Hero entrance examination." My heart clenched vexedly. His face fell into a childlike pout. "Unfortunately, your scores were too low to be accepted into the UA Hero course. Your results fell within the 1st to the 10th percentile." My stomach twisted, and I suddenly wished my mom was no longer in the room. Shit. That's embarrassing. I could feel the tears building again. Shame clung to my skin like a second suffocating layer, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, threatening to crush me. "Not to worry," he added with relentless optimism, the kind that made failure feel even heavier. "Put your heart into your studies elsewhere, and who knows where you'll go. I'm sorry to deliver this news, but UA wishes you the best of luck." The hologram fizzled slightly. I watched it blankly, world fogging up around me. All Might's words, his tone, they weren't meant for me. They were for someone else, someone capable of moving forward, someone like Kentaro. Not me. I glared blankly at the glowing figure, his smile like a beacon for the students who did make it. I wasn't one of them. I never would be. I was the bottom rung, the lowest step in a ladder for everyone else to climb. No other hero's school would want me either. This was it. I thought back to my conversation with All Might on the roof. Without a quirk? No. It's not possible to be a hero. I snorted dryly at the memory. I know now that he's right. But back then, I didn't want to believe what his words, because despite everything, I felt like I had a shot all thanks to Kentaro, the thought whispered through my mind, and it was right, desperately so. If I didn't have Kentaro there to push me forwards from day one, would I have ever made it this far? The thought stirs inside me, looping around and around in my head. Where would I be without Kentaro? How could you fail him? My mind whispered these thoughts relentlessly, coiling tighter and tighter around my neck, choking out every other thought. In front of me, a static flickering drew my eyes back into focus as another figure took All Might's place. Nezu. The Yui principal's small, rodent-like form appeared, his eyes glinting with excitement. His chipper voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of excitement seeing him up close, even if it was just a hologram, a living, breathing example of a quirked animal. His very existence opened up so many new possibilities for understanding quirks. Yet, at the same time, it revealed a darker side of quirk studies that made my stomach churn with disgust. The stories I've heard have only made my respect for Nezu run deeper. Congratulations on completing the written component of the UA entrance exam. My breath itched painfully. What else is there to say? I already failed the practical. I am absolutely elated to inform you that your written results fell within the 99th percentile. And with scores like that, young man, UA would love to offer you a place in our general education course. My mother gasped, trembling hands flying to her face. Izuku, did you hear that? That's amazing! Nezu continued, his words sharp and clear, each one carving itself into my chest. We simply could not let a talented young mind like yours go to waste. So, in hopes that you accept our invitation, I'm thrilled to offer you the principal's pick scholarship. This will cover all fees associated with studying at UA. He winked his beady eye. Thank you, and we hope to see you soon. The hologram dimmed, the room settling back into silence. And then the tears came. Izuku! My mother clapped her hands together, her joy spilling over like sunlight through a crack in heavy clouds. You got into Gen Ed! That's absolutely fantastic! But it's not the hero course. I'm so proud of you! She beamed, her voice trembling with emotion. Those aren't the words I want to hear, Mom. I watch her joy falter at the sight of my tears as she softly speaks. Why are you crying? I destroyed our dream. The dream of us ever being heroes together. I turn away, the letter slipping from my trembling fingers. I want to be alone, Mom. The words hung heavy in the air. Mom left, shutting the door softly behind her, leaving me alone. I pretended not to hear the quiet sniffles outside my door as I searched for the guilty feeling that should be bubbling inside me, but it wasn't there. All I could feel was a smothering sense of déjà vu. I couldn't keep running from reality. I had spent most of my life wrapped in a strange, blissful denial, riding a high I didn't even know I was on. Every rejection, every shove to the ground, every piece of shit flung at me. I'd always gotten back up. Like some masochist, I embraced the pain. I could endure anything because I believed it was just another step in my journey toward becoming a hero. I had spent my life chasing a star that was never within my gravitational pull, mistaking the distance for destiny. Even Earth, stable and steady, could leisurely succeed the hero course with half the training I bled for. I can't be a hero. And worse, I can't face Kentaro. I'd let him down, the only person who had ever truly believed in me. That empty space within me burst into a raging, crackling fire that was melting away at everything I thought I was. I curled into myself, gripping my knees as tears slipped silently down my face. He would look at me with those bright eyes full of faith, and I'd have nothing to offer him but the ashes of my failure. I couldn't do that to him. He deserved better than this. Better than me. A sharp knock rattled the front door. Oh no. Mum's voice cut through the silence. Coming! I shot up out of my bed and stumbled to my bedroom door. Oh no, 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 no. Just as I slammed burst into the kitchen, she swung the entryway open, and my heart stopped. There he was. Kentaro stood on the doorstep, his smile piercingly bright as always. Is Izuku here? He asked, his voice breathless and rushed with concern. He hasn't been answering my messages, so I thought maybe his phone got lost, or he dropped it in the toilet, or it was stolen. Mom's face lit up with relief. Oh, Kentaro, she said, her tone warm. I think Izuku would love to see you right now. He's just a little dash. Kentaro! I called out, cutting her off before she could say anything I didn't want him to hear. He turned, his smile widening at the sight of me. Izuku! Hey! You left the exams so fast, bro. Grab your archery stuff, we gotta catch up. I forced a grin, even as my insides twisted. Oh. Okay. I turned away quickly, biting back the tears that threatened to spill. I didn't want to do archery. I didn't want to think about why I'd started archery in the first place. Another one of my pathetic ideas, tied to an unattainable dream. Back in my room, I grabbed my kit and my phone, steeling myself. It's okay, you got this. You're a great liar. It's not like Kentaro can you read you like a book. Haha, not at all. I plastered the best fake smile I could muster onto my face and stepped out to meet him. Did you get your letter from Yue yet? Kentaro asked casually, his voice light and innocent. My stomach dropped. Lie. No. The letters have started going out. I replied as casually as I could, slipping on my shoes at the door. Mom caught my eye, her expression a mix of disappointment and questioning. She knew it was a lie. She knew what I was hiding, even if Kentaro didn't. For a brief second, I thought she might tell him the truth, but she said nothing, just sighed and gave me a small, hopeful smile. Yeah, man, the letters started going out. Kentaro's excitement practically radiated off him. His whole body buzzed like an overjoyed puppy wagging its tail. I felt the blood draining from my face. I already knew what mine said. I guess I'm really nervous about what mine will say. I nervously choked out. Don't be worried, dude. If I can get in, you can definitely get in. Kentaro tried to sound casual, but the pride in his voice slipped through. Kentaro! You got in? I exclaimed, forcing every ounce of enthusiasm I could muster into my words. Duh. Never doubt my dash. Genius! That's amazing! I interrupted, clapping him on the shoulder. I heaved a deep-rooted sigh of relief. It's okay, he's going to make it. As I took in his glowing face, I felt anger not towards Kentaro, no, but a deep, indelible hatred towards myself. He grinned, his chest puffing slightly with pride. One step closer to our dreams, man. The best hero duo the world has ever witnessed. One step, I echoed under my breath. One step further away from me. The thought hung heavy, a leaden weight, as we began the familiar trek to ᴅᴇᴄᴏ archery. Each thumping rhythm of my kit against my back was a step further into that unwanted distance. You think they'd let a duo share the #1 hero spot? Kentaro mused, his eyes sparkling with the kind of hope I'd lost. I quickly smothered my jealousy until it was no longer twitching. Or would they split it up? I hope it's not split up. Honestly, you'd be #1. I said, meaning it. With a quirk as versatile as yours, you're destined to be a top hero. Maybe even bigger than All Might. Greater than All Might? Kentaro laughed. Coming from the biggest fanboy I've ever met, that's an honor. He smiled wistfully. When All Might called me by name and told me I got into the hero course, man, I was so overwhelmed I actually cried. His smile faltered as his eyes widened in realization, turning to me with genuine horror. Oh shit! I just ruined the surprise for you. All Might delivers the news? I asked, forcing excitement. The embers of passion the name All Might used to light within me were put out now. That passion is hollow now, like an echo of someone else's dream. Kentaro puts his head in his hands despairingly. Oh my god, I cannot believe I just did that. I managed a quiet laugh and pat him on the back reassuringly. It's okay, really, I'll be too worried about whether or not I've passed rather than thinking about who's delivering the news. Kentaro looked up peeking through his fingers tearily. Thanks, bro, you always know how to make me feel better. Let's go. I pushed him forward before stepping toward the train doors after him, destination 괰ᴜ. The silence between us briefly broken only by the hum of the tracks. I looked over at Kentaro's form, finding something missing. Hey, Kentaro? Where's your archery kit? Oh, I left it at club after the entrance exam. Relief washed over me. At least he hadn't forgotten it entirely. I just wanted to get there, shoot some arrows, and go home back to the isolation where I could wallow in peace. Pretending to be okay was exhausting. Hey, bro, Kentaro whispered, leaning closer. Are you okay? Yeah, I muttered, fighting the tears that threatened to leak from my eyes again. Stupid are you okay reaction. Guess I'm just nervous to find out if I got in or not. Kentaro studied my face as I pointedly avoided eye contact, choosing instead to watch the landscape fly by in picturesque blur. Hey, he whispered in a serious tone and I tensed. Why'd you leave the exam without me? There it is, the big question. He frowned. Well, you didn't have to wait for me, but you kinda went AWOL for a couple days, Izuku. I was worried. My stomach clenched guiltily as I fought another wave of oncoming tears. Get it together, Izuku. I wasn't sure how I did. I whispered, swallowing hard. I panicked. I didn't want to drag you down, because I knew you'd done great. And you did. Please, please, please let this be enough. A knot tightened in my stomach. My carefully constructed half-truths seemed to have taken root, as Kentaro reached out, his hand settling on my knee. You're going to get in. You worked hard for this. Just believe in yourself, he said, his confidence in me unwavering. What if I don't get in? What if it wasn't enough? My voice cracked, betraying me. Kentaro looked me square in the eye, his tone softer now. It was enough. But hypothetically. He raised his hands in air quotes. If you didn't get in, we'd figure it out. There's always another way, you know? But I'm not worried, so you shouldn't be either. He grinned. This practice will be good. Get some of those nerves out. And then we can go home, and I can stop digging this trench full of lies. Yeah. Hopefully. Kentaro laughed breathlessly beside me. I'm really glad you're okay, Izuku. I was seriously freaking out. He elbowed me in the gut, hard, and I doubled over in pain. Don't you ever pull something like that again. Yup. I wheezed painfully. You got it, no more ghosting. Kentaro giggled teasingly. Good, glad we've cleared that up. I smiled faintly, letting the moment linger. He still doesn't know how I ruined our dream, but he deserves happiness. The least I can do is be the friend he deserves and hold on to these moments while I still can. Because deep down, I know that once he realizes the truth, once he sees how much of a loser I really am, he'd leave me behind, just like everyone else. The train came to a slow halt as the PA system called out 괰ᴜ station. As we stepped onto the station, Kentaro started up again, his excitement bubbling over. So, since I already ruined the surprise. All Might is in Mizurufu. He's going to teach at UA. I nodded, keeping my gaze on the path ahead. Then I nodded again, only to shake my head. Wait, you're not joking? All Might is teaching at UA? Well, I guess that explains his appearance on the hologram. I muttered. Honestly, I hadn't given it much thought. I just figured fate had a weird way of messing with me. Kentaro nodded enthusiastically, practically bouncing down the street. That means we might see him at the convenience store. Or fighting crime in our town. How sick is that? I nodded in agreement. Catching a villain fight of his in person would be cool, I guess. Cool? Cool? Last time he was here, I saw him stop a bank heist. Dude, it was insane. You saw that too? I interrupted, a faint memory surfacing. There was a kid standing next to me in the crowd that day. Maybe it could have been Kentaro. It's blurry. Small world, huh? Kentaro laughed. Hey, maybe destiny does exist. He smirked, leaning closer. You know what's not destiny, though? Me carrying you in archery practice, as usual. Yeah? Let's see you hit the targets with that ego weighing you down. I shot back, unable to completely fight off the smile clawing its way onto my face. Hey, it's not my fault I'm naturally amazing. Kentaro quipped, puffing out his chest dramatically. I'm just built different. He pulled a reluctant laugh out of me. For a fleeting moment, the burden on my chest eased. Until a sharp crack split the air, I tensed, instinctively clutching my kit. Kentaro's face lit up as goosebumps surfaced across my skin. Smoke billowed south, a few blocks away. The explosion, even at that distance, was deafening. It's gotta be a villain attack. He shouted, already bouncing on his heels. Come on, Izuku, let's go. Kentaro was already ahead, darting off the main path, his stride sure and relentless as he veered toward the stairwell he'd spotted. The sound of our sneakers hitting the pavement was swallowed by the instantaneous chaos around us, a cacophony of shouts, distant sirens, and the rhythmic cracks of energy that lit up the sky like angry gods in the throes of battle. I followed close behind, the weight of my phone in my hand as I glanced at the glowing screen, waiting for the inevitable alert. Warning. Criminal activity, southwest 괰ᴜ. Approximately 1 suspect. 1 suspect. I shouted breathlessly to Kentaro, closing the gap between us with hurried strides. That's a pretty big explosion for 1 suspect. He called back, weaving through clusters of panicked evacuees. The crowd parted reluctantly, driven by fear and the urgent commands of local heroes and police urging them to clear the area. A blinding flash lit up the skyline, followed by the bone-rattling crack of what could only be described as a quirk-born storm. Overhead, dark clouds churned unnaturally, drawn toward the source of the chaos like water spiraling down the drain. The air buzzed, sharp and metallic, heavy with the tang of ozone. Darkness rolled in like a suffocating blanket, swallowing the daylight whole and plunging the world into an eerie twilight. Holy shit, this came out of nowhere! It has to be an emitter quirk! I gasped, my voice tinged with awe and unease. It looks like weather control, maybe lightning manipulation. No dash. I shook my head. The cloud formations are too unnatural. It has to be weather or storm manipulation, a powerful one at that. Kentaro spared a glance at me, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of recognition. No fucking shit, this is crazy. Is there a hero on the scene? I hope it's All Might. His voice softened, almost reverent. If it's him, I'll thank him if I ever get the chance. The crowd was dense now, a living, restless barrier between us and the police line ahead. From here, we couldn't see the fight, but the storm above gave away its ferocity. Each strike of lightning illuminated the street below in harsh, fleeting glimpses. An earth-shattering crack tore through the battlefield, its deafening roar echoing for miles, my ears ringing. In the distance, the side of a towering skyscraper disintegrated in a violent explosion, chunks of cement hurtling like deadly projectiles toward the earth below. I watched dumbfounded, and the building's foundations collapsed like sand before my eyes. Holy shit, that's not good. Get on my shoulders, I instructed, already crouching. Tell me what you see. Kentaro didn't hesitate, climbing onto my back and steadying himself as he adjusted my archery gear. I heaved him up, my legs burning as I straightened. Kentaro gasped dumbfoundedly, smacking my head repeatedly in excitement. All Might! He shouted down excitedly. Izuku, it's All Might! He's fighting, oh crap! The villain! His tone darkened, fingers curling into my hair. Long white hair, young guy. And oh no. Izuku, there are cops down. Dead, I think civilians too. A gasp from the crowd nearby drew my attention as someone echoed. Dead bodies? I can't be sure from here. Kentaro replied quickly, his voice cracking. Maybe just injured, but they definitely need help. Anxiety thrummed in my veins. What's happening now? Is All Might winning? I demanded, frustration seeping into my voice. I hated being blind to the fight. I need to see to analyze. It's the one thing I can rely on. Another violent crack split the air, followed by a blast of erupting light that seared my vision, a supernova compressed into a heartbeat. The brightness stabbed my retinas, burning a sharp afterimage in my vision. The air was thick with the scent of rain and electricity, tangy, sour and numbing, and for a moment, I stumbled under the weight of Kentaro, nearly losing my balance. "Izuku!" Kentaro barked, clutching my shoulders tightly as we swayed. I'm good. I managed breathlessly, steadying myself. The blinding snap of light was followed by a ruthless aftershock of pelting rains and churning winds that sent the crowd reeling, drenched in an instant. Kentaro slid off my back, his face taut with determination. "I found a spot where you can see everything. Come on." He led the way, his head ducked low as we weaved through the restless crowd. People groaned and jostled, irritated by what they assumed was just another pair of rubberneckers vying for a better view. "Kentaro, are you sure?" But he wasn't guessing. He was already moving, my voice lost in the wind's sinister howl. Gaze focused, trajectory locked on the alley between two commercial buildings. The stench of rotting food and damp garbage clung to the narrow passage, but neither of us hesitated. On the other side, the alley opened onto another blocked street. People were pressed against the barricades, craning their necks for even the briefest glimpse of the battle, unfazed the extreme conditions. Kentaro's eyes darted upward, locking on a rusting metal stairwell that snaked up the side of a residential building. "There!" His voice a distorted echo, swallowed by the wall of driving rain. I nodded in response as we sprinted for the stairwell, our footsteps clanging against the rickety metal as we ascended. Each step was cautious and calculated, our shoes slipping against the slick, grime-coated surface. When we reached the top, the battlefield unfolded beneath us, scarred and broken by the sheer force of the combatants. My breath hitched at the sight. Meters upon meters of obliterated buildings. What was once a dense circuit board of concrete and steel had been flattened into a vast, lifeless gray desert. "Up here?" I asked, my voice tinged with unease as the true scale of the battle finally sank in. "I was thinking up here," Kentaro breathed, his jaw hanging open in awe. "Holy shit, Izuku, this might just turn into the largest villain fight Mizurufu has ever seen." I clenched my fists so tightly it hurt. "I think it already is," I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. The weight of the destruction stretched before me, an unspoken warning etched into the ruins. A hollow feeling twisted in my gut. We were too exposed up here. Vulnerable. If the enemy decided to unleash other wide-scale attacks, standing on top of this crumbling structure would be a death sentence. "We shouldn't stay here." From the corner of my eye, Kentaro frowned. "Maybe you're right," he admitted, glancing uneasily at the shattered skyline. "Those collapsed buildings don't exactly scream safe zone." His voice wavered just slightly, betraying his own unease. "Where should we go?" I squinted, my gaze flickering across the maze of buildings and barricades hedging the battlefield. Small clusters of defiant onlookers had broken past the barriers, huddling in protected corners with unbroken views. A few rooftop edges bristled with silhouetted shapes, unmoving as they watched the battle unfold. "What about there?" I said, pointing to a recessed entryway beneath an insurance building. My eyes squinted against the rain, its canopy shielding a small patch of ground. It was 50 meters away from the closest group of spectators who sat underneath an underpass, distant enough to stay unnoticed, but close enough to see. "Perfect," Kentaro puffed, flashing me a thumbs up with a crooked grin. "Looks safer than here, and we're not too far from other people." The endless rain had plastered his black hair to his forehead, droplets tracing his cheekbones. I probably didn't look any drier if the uncomfortable sticky wetness of my clothes was anything to go by. We both carefully scaled down the building on the opposite side to the stairwell. It was slippery, so we clung with wet hands to the window ledges and tried not to fall, the rusting metal pinching my skin painfully. We hit the ground in a crouch, soaked and fingers aching. Darting past the nearby spectators sitting beneath the underpass, we wove our way through the rubble-strewn street as faint rumbles of battle echoed nearby. With heaving chests, Kentaro collapsed against one of the pillars, while I crouched beside him, my focus locked on the unfolding chaos. Now that we were closer, I could see them, the police officers, their uniforms singed and soaked, bodies motionless as if trapped in an endless sleep. The sight sent a sharp, gut-wrenching pang through my skull, a pressure so intense it made my vision blur. I fought against the bile rising in my throat, swallowing hard as the weight of it all threatened to crush me. They're dead, they're dead. This was a bad idea. We never should have come here. The sky above us churned like a coiled serpent, its violent shades of gray and purple twisting in fury as veins of lightning forked the clouds, illuminating the battlefield in staccato bursts. All Might stood at the epicenter of the storm, radiating the presence of the symbol of peace. Opposite him, the white-haired villain, dressed in nothing but a hoodie and jeans, exuded raw, untamed energy, his attacks unleashing with unsettling ease. "All Might's got this," Kentaro whispered, his voice a shaky mix of awe and fragile hope. I didn't respond, my stomach hollow. My gaze was fixed on the scene, on the villain. He moved erratically. His eyes looked manic with a raw desperation that translated into his attacks. Unprecise strikes of lightning that were compensated by his quirks' raw power, turning misfires into widespread destruction. Buildings groaned under the weight of his unleashed energy. The air smelled of scorched concrete and rain. I turned to look at Kentaro, but he was focused on the battle. I steadied my hand on his knee. He turned to look at me, desperate. "Should we do something?" His eyes flickered to my bow, his voice quiet yet raw with unspoken turmoil. I met his burning gaze, the water gathering on his eyelashes glittering in the sharp bursts of battle. "No," I said firmly. "I won't let him risk his life here. All Might will win." It felt like a lie. How could anyone hope to help All Might anyway? I turned back to the battlefield, my heart pounding. And then, I prayed desperately that I was right. That I wouldn't be wrong. All Might surged forward, a golden streak cutting through the chaos. His fist slammed into the ground with a force that shook the earth, sending shockwaves outward in a ripple of cracked asphalt and flying debris. The villain leapt into the air, propelled by a burst of wind, his white hair whipping around him. "Predictable," the villain sneered, his voice echoing through the broken streets. He raised his hand, and the air grew heavy, vibrating with the buildup of power. A cyclone of lightning coiled around him, pulsating with deadly intent. Then, with a sharp flick, he unleashed it. The ground screamed as arcs of electricity carved deep scars into the earth. The flash was blinding, searing my vision with ghostly afterimages. I blinked rapidly, trying to clear the haze. When my eyes refocused, I saw All Might twisted mid-air, narrowly evading the brunt of the attack. His costume bore scorch marks faint but telling, a sign of vulnerability. "He's fast," I murmured, more to myself than to Kentaro. My hands pressed into the rough concrete beneath us, grounding me as my breath hitched. "But All Might's faster," Kentaro replied, his voice filled with the conviction of someone who refused to entertain doubt. I bit my tongue, swallowing the words that fought to escape. All Might's not invincible. All Might is injured. It was a truth that lingered in my mind, a reality only I seemed to grasp. Because, likely, I was the only person who knew. The only person here who's seen his weak true form. Lately, his battles had shifted, less calculated, more rushed, against criminals rather than true masterminds. The villain's movements carried a dangerous precision, driven by something primal, something unrelenting. A thought flickered like a shadow in my mind, unwelcome but impossible to ignore. What if All Might has met his match? All Might launched himself into the air, his silhouette slicing through the electric storm. He descended with terrifying speed, his voice booming over the chaos as he called out his attack. Detroit Smash! The impact was cataclysmic. The ground erupted, a thunderous roar tearing through the battlefield as debris and dust exploded outward in a suffocating cloud. The force rippled through the air, a shockwave so powerful it made my ears ring. "Did he get him?" Kentaro's voice broke through, tight with hope. Torn by a gnawing doubt, I spoke with a fragile hope rather than a belief. "Surely." The dust settled, revealing the villain's pale figure. He looked battered, blood streaked down from his nose, strings of hair dangled in his face, his stance unstable and swaying. But he was standing. He coughed, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, then fixed All Might with a glare sharp enough to cut steel. All Might's face darkened into a scowl, his composure tested for the first time. "Is that all the symbol of peace has?" the villain sneered, stepping forward as the air around him crackled ominously. "You're weaker than I expected." "How disappointing." Something about his tone bothered me, the way he was fighting. Above, the storm intensified, thunder growling like an enraged beast. The villain extended his arms, summoning the tempest into a single sphere of concentrated, crackling energy. Lightning struck the earth in rapid succession, each bolt reverberating through the ground with bone-shaking force. Hold on. His attacks aren't just uncoordinated, they're uncontrollable. His quirk is too powerful to control. Each strike of lightning is taking a toll on his body. It was obvious in the way he faltered after each strike he couldn't handle extended use of his quirk. Which meant that this battle would be over sooner rather than later. All Might can defeat him. He just has to win this battle of endurance. "All Might!" I whispered urgently, fear clenching my stomach. Beside me, Kentaro's fist trembled against his knees, knuckles white. But All Might didn't flinch. He squared his shoulders, planting his feet firmly as he drew his arm back in preparation. ᴤᴅᴜ's dash. Before he could finish, the villain unleashed his attack. The sphere of energy detonated, unleashing a tidal wave of destruction. The shockwave was so violent it felt as if the earth itself was being torn apart. Chunks of debris were hurled into the air, swirling in the calamitous winds. Windows shattered, and stray rubble was sucked into the storm's pull like matter consumed by a black hole. The ground trembled beneath us. "Hold on!" Kentaro yelled urgently and grabbed my arm, steadying both of us as debris rained down. Buildings in the distance groaned under the strain, while the overpass to our left cracked sickeningly above the crowd of civilians huddled beneath it. Their screams of terror rang out, thin and desperate, as they scrambled to escape. "Move!" Kentaro and I yelled in unison, our voices cracking with urgency. But it was too late. I froze, my breath caught in my throat as I stared at the pile of rubble where they'd stood. Chunks of concrete and twisted metal covered the spot. "They're dead." I couldn't look away. Locked in morbid curiosity, my eyes stayed locked on the wreckage, desperate for a sign of life. "Izuku! All Might saved them!" Kentaro gasped suddenly, his voice tinged with awe and giddy relief. I followed his gaze. Across the battlefield, hundreds of meters away from the crumbled overpass, All Might stood tall, shielding the civilians with his body. They were already sprinting to safety, their figures fading into the distance. This was it. The moment wasn't frozen in time like the old video I'd watched 1,000 times, it was real, unfolding right in front of me. This was what it meant to be the symbol of peace, not just strength, but the unwavering promise that no matter how dire things became, someone would stand and fight. And right now, I wasn't just watching. I was witnessing it. My heart soared against the intensifying rain, sheets of water pouring down and blurring the battlefield. But even through the downpour, All Might's figure was unmistakable. "This is the end for you, villain!" He advanced through the storm, each step deliberate, his presence undeniable. His voice cut through the cacophony, booming with unshakable conviction. "Texas smash!" His punch collided, sending fissures spidering across the asphalt, ground erupting in jagged spikes as a shockwave blasted outward and struck the villain. The villain was launched into the air, his body twisting mid-flight. But he caught himself, manipulating the winds around him with uncanny precision. When he landed, it was different. His stance wavered, his breath labored, muscles spasming. My chest hitched, my mind screaming with a single thought, "Finish it, All Might, he can't move." But my eyes betrayed me, drawn to his hunched figure. Each step he took, each strike, carried a determination that was hauntingly familiar. I came to the horrifying realization that, the fire in his eyes it used to burn in mine. "He's gonna win. All Might always wins," Kentaro whispered. "He's weakened now," I muttered. But I wasn't just talking about the villain. All Might charged, his body a blur as he unleashed a torrent of punches, each one cracking the air with deafening force. Blow after blow hammered into the villain, driving him back, his cries of pain echoing through the battlefield. The villain let out a desperate, strained cry, slamming his hands into the ground. Lightning erupted from the storm above, a bolt screaming toward All Might. He dodged at the last second, leaping back as the ground where he stood exploded in a blinding flash. "That's enough!" All Might roared, his voice raw with fury. "No more will I let you damage this city, you bastard!" Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, his chest heaving as he struggled to stay upright. He has to end this now, I thought, my heart pounding painfully. He's almost out of time. All Might knew it, too. With a roar that seemed to shake the heavens, he drew back his fist, channeling everything he had left into one final blow. United States of Smash! The storm stilled, and for a split second nothing moved, everything frozen in time. Before the wind whipped violently and ripped through the battlefield, directed directly towards the villain, and subsequently at us. A rippling wall of force tore through the air, carrying a deep, resonant groan that rattled the earth beneath us as if on the verge of tearing apart. Amidst the quaking buildings and shattering windows, a churning wall of dust surged towards us, swallowing everything in its relentless embrace. I stumbled, Kentaro's grip on my arm the only thing keeping me upright. A sound pierced the chaos, a crack, sharp and merciless. My head snapped upwards just as the massive concrete roof entrance began to collapse above us, its supports giving way under the power of All Might's attack. Time slowed. Like drowning in honey, I watched the collapsing structure suffocate us slowly in its shadow. A torrent of fear seized my ability to move. My legs were locked in place. Move! My brain screamed it, but my body refused to obey. Is this how it ends? Beside me, Kentaro's grip tightened. I turned to him, and in that fleeting moment I saw it, the fear in his eyes mirrored by determination. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice trembling but resolute. Before I could react, Kentaro's quirk flared. I could tell by the odd glow from his eyes. How had I not noticed that before? In one swift motion, he pushed me away, my body trailing backward as if a puppet on a string. "No!" I screamed, my fingers grasping at empty air as Kentaro slipped from my reach. The ground vanished beneath me, and all I could do was watch the debris tumbling, falling. His smiling face was there one moment, then swallowed by a flood of gray. I hit the ground hard, skidding to a stop just as the debris came crashing down. Billowing dust flew up, shrouding the air in a stagnant haze. "Kentaro!" My voice broke, raw and desperate, as I scrambled to my feet. My hands tore at the rubble, ignoring the sharp edges cutting into my skin. "Kentaro! He can't be dead! He can't be dead! He can't be dead!" A groan, faint but unmistakable, reached my ears. "I'm here," he croaked. Holy shit. Relief poured through me so violently, my knees shuddered weakly and my heart felt like it had kick-started. I clawed at the debris, adrenaline fueling every frantic movement. Straining, I pushed away a slab of concrete, uncovering his face, pale and streaked with dirt. "Kentaro, oh my God!" I sobbed in relief. "You okay, you're alive?" He smiled at me, wobbly, fragile, but somehow still so Kentaro. "It's okay," he whispered, his words barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "No, it's not okay. His body is crushed beneath tons of concrete. Here, we have to get you out. You need a hospital, okay?" My arms were shaking, and my muscles suddenly felt weak, like I was in an uncontrollable dream. I had the hulking slab of concrete covering his torso, ignoring the deformed leg peeking out from below, bone visible and glistening as blood seeped gently from the wound. Fuck. Tears streamed down my face. "It's okay, it's going to be okay," I choked out, though I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince. I pressed my hands and shoulder against the concrete almost 3 times my size and heaved with everything I had. "Move. Just move." But it wouldn't budge. Fuck dash. My breath hitched, my sobs shaking my body. "It's so fucking heavy." I clawed at the jagged edges, my fingers raw, my arms trembling with effort. What's the point of all my training if I can't even move one stupid rock? I let out a guttural scream of effort, the slab shifting slightly under the pressure, until I slipped. My shoe loosened grip against the rough bitumen as viscous blood seeped across the floor. Kentaro's scream of pain cut through me, raw and unrelenting. "Oh my God, I'm sorry. I whispered, my voice trembling as I stepped away from the slab. Where is all this blood coming from? His chest heaved weakly as I knelt beside him, my hands trembling uncontrollably as I assessed his injuries. He can't breathe. He can't breathe under this damn slab of concrete. His legs were crushed, unrecognizable, twisted in ways they shouldn't be. Blood pooled around him, a deep crimson stain, and it wasn't until I looked closer that I realized the source, a jagged piece of rubble impaled through his lower abdomen. No. I muttered, panic consuming me as I palmed his wound with my hand. This isn't real. This can't be real. I have to stop the bleeding, or he's going to die. I have to stop the bleeding, I have to do something. I pressed my hand around the protruding object, blood squelching and bubbling wetly around my fingers. Kentaro gasped sharply, his cries twisting into breathless, pained whimpers. No, please don't. I have to. I croaked as his pained breast turned to ragged pants, each one more labored than the last. You're okay, Kentaro. I whispered, though the words felt like lies even to my own ears. It's okay now. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. My heart pounded erratically, hammering against my ribcage. My free hand drifted to his hair, running through the dust-caked strands in trembling strokes. My fingers left a trail of damning red, and I couldn't help but despise how it seemed to accentuate his features, bringing out the sharpness of his eyes and the paleness of his complexion. It hurts, Izuku. Kentaro whimpered weakly. His eyes were glassy and distant and voice so frail, unsteady. A sob tore from my throat involuntarily. I know. I choked out, blurring tears spilling freely as I fought to steady my shaking hands. We were both scared, and I had no idea how to fix it. I couldn't for the life of me understand how All Might could still smile in times like these, when everything felt like it was falling apart. A weak, pained smile flickered across Kentaro's face, the corners of his lips barely lifting as his glassy eyes brimmed with tears. Now we're even, he rasped, his voice cracking. Even? My voice faltered like a flickering candle. I did something heroic too, didn't I? His laugh was soft, fragile, breaking apart before it even fully formed as it dissolved into a sharp, choking gasp. His words ripped through me like a blade, sharp and merciless. They felt final in a way I wasn't ready to accept. Sure, I begged, swallowing back a sob. My voice trembling. Don't waste your energy. Help is coming. I turned, frantically searching for anyone, anything. Help! Over here! I desperately shrieked. But there was no one. I lead us to a stupid deserted alleyway with no one else around. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Izuku, it's okay. Kentaro soothed. He shouldn't be soothing me. He was the one needing soothing. He was the one in pain. He can't. No, he won't die. Kentaro will live. He's going to make it, and he's going to become a hero. He made it into Yuri for God's sake. He has to live. He's going to live. I clung to those words like a lifeline. I'm getting you help, Kentaro. The dam of my anguish barely holding as my words spilled out in unsteady, gentle whispers between ragged sobs. You're going to be okay. Somebody help! I continued to scream despite the burning sensation that filled my throat. Pressing down harder on the wound, my hands were slick with his blood, so much blood, too much. You're going to be okay. I heaved, my words trembling like leaves in an unforgiving storm. As if my hope and reassurance would anchor us in the path of a hurricane. His hand lifted with barely a ghost of movement, his trembling fingers wrapping around my forearm. Izuku, he murmured, voice so quiet, so faint. My head whipped around, searching wildly for anyone who could help. Help him. Help me. My whole fist was sinking inside him, desperately trying to hold him together, but blood continued to gush. He shook his head faintly, lips parting with more intent. Izuku. Listen. The words slammed into me like a punch to the gut. My breath hitched. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm listening, Kentaro. I bent closer, my tears dripping onto his blood-stained shirt, disappearing into the fabric like they'd never existed. His unfocused eyes strained to gaze into mine as he traced shaky figure eights against my arm. You're gonna be a great hero someday, Izuku. He whispered, voice slurring. I found my breath heaving aggressively, every breath suffocating and trembling. Do it for us. Okay? Do it for you. His voice dropped off, slurring. No. No, no, no. I pleaded, shaking him gently. Stay with me. Help. My scream was guttural, ripping through me, guttural and raw. Somebody help. We were going to be heroes together, Kentaro. That was the plan. That was our dream. My voice choked as I cradled his face in my blood-stained hands, rocking gently back and forth like a mother soothing her child to sleep. You were going to be the #1 hero. Remember? You were Dash. His hand slipped from my arm. My world stilled. You're okay, Kentaro. I screamed at him, my heart clutching and aching, yearning to leap out of my throat. His eyes stared back at me, lifeless. His chest wasn't moving. Kentaro. I whimpered, the word quivering in my mouth. My trembling fingers left his hair, moved instinctively to his neck, searching, hoping, praying. No pulse. Come on, Kentaro. I whispered, my voice trembling. Wake up. Please wake up. My tears cascaded down my cheeks, soaking into his blood-streaked skin. He's gone. No. 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 I yell, yanking my hand from Kentaro's wound, shuddering at the sight of the crimson dripping from my fingertips. Come back, Kentaro. I collapsed against him, my arms wrapped desperately around his body, my face pressing into his chest as if his heartbeat might somehow return. My eyes clenched shut, praying that I could turn back time if I wished hard enough. Yearning, like somehow, if I begged the universe, I could take us back to a minute ago when everything still made sense. But as the weight of reality crashed over me, I felt myself shattering, wishing it was me who was bleeding out, crushed under that weight instead of him. All I could do was hold him and feel the warmth drain slowly from his limp body. My entire body feels like static, a whirring, buzzing emptiness that fills every crevice of my mind. A hollow laugh escapes my lips, fractured and manic, each sound spiraling into a quiet hysteria. Nothing's changed. I whisper to myself, a laugh escaping my lips, but it's hollow, suffocating. The sobs tear through me, shaking my body violently as Kentaro hangs limply in my grip. You're still a failure, still useless. My chest tightens as the words leave my mouth. They echo in my mind, louder, harsher. Kentaro had faith in me. He didn't even know. He didn't know I'd failed the hero course exam. I lay him down gently, my hands trembling as I pull away. Fuck. I scream, swinging my fist into my face with all the force I can muster. Pain shoots through my cheek, but it's not enough. It's never enough. Pathetic. Useless. Murderer. I curl into a ball beside him, clutching my knees, pulling at my hair. I can't accept this. My chest feels tight, like the air is being sucked out of me, and I keep telling myself it's not real. But it is, and the thought hits me like a wave, crashing over and over, and my head spins. My hands tremble, but I can't stop them, can't stop myself from holding on, from pretending like this isn't happening. It's too much, too real, but if I just keep pushing it away, maybe it'll disappear. My heart races, my thoughts scattered, everything feels like it's slipping. I'm slipping. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Voices. Urgent. Panicked. They're coming closer, surrounding us. I can barely make out their words. They're too late. No pulse, he's Dash. Their voices fade out. My heart feels like it's caving in. My thoughts scream louder than the world around me. I want to die. I should have died. It was my fault, my idea. Why didn't I die? They lift him onto a stretcher. Ambulances arrive. I can't hear the sirens. I can't hear anything. The harsh lights of the ambulances reflect off the wet, dilapidated surroundings. Red. Blue. White. It was sunny, the storm that had surged suddenly fading, leaving behind only the harsh rays of the sun piercing through the clouds. They cover him with a white sheet. I scream. I can't even hear myself. I scramble to my feet, chasing after the stretcher. I don't care about the hands pulling at me, the voices trying to soothe me. I don't care about the tears blurring my vision. My chest heaves, my head spins, it's all too much. Help him. I sob, my throat raw. Help him. You're okay. A paramedic tells me. We have to take you to hospital. No. I hiss, pulling against their arms. The ambulance doors close, the sirens wail, and they're gone. He's gone. My knees buckle, and bile rises in my throat. I hurl violently, the acid burning my throat, splattering across one of the paramedics. They don't even flinch. Another paramedic's hand finds its way to my hair, soft and soothing, but it does nothing. It's my fault. I told him to sit there. I made us change spot for a better view of stupid, pointless, villain fight. I did this to him. I scream again, until my voice is hoarse and my chest aches as I collapse into the medic's arms. They strap me to a stretcher, their words muffled. Through the blur of tears, I see All Might. He's standing tall, watching as the police arrest the villain. My gaze shifts to the villain, his white hair gleaming under the harsh lights as he's shoved into the back of a police car. He stares back at me, unblinking. I turn to All Might. He meets my eyes. I'm not stupid. I know heroes can't save everyone. But All Might was going to win anyway. He didn't need to use that reckless attack. If it was for spectacle, I fucking swear. Kentaro is dead. I can't help the hatred that swirls up inside me, the blame I shift onto his broad shoulders. Kentaro is dead. I retch again violently. This time, one of the paramedics flinches. Using one hand to hold my face to the side just in case I decided to throw up again. The tears don't stop. They feel endless, streaming down my face as though my body is trying to empty itself of everything. Kentaro wanted me to be a hero. For us. But I can't. I'm quirkless. Useless. A complete failure. I can't let him down again. I don't have a choice. A despaired moan slipped from my lips, abraded and hollow. The paramedic glances down at me in concern just as All Might approaches my stretcher. Young man, he says, placing a hand on my shoulder. His voice is calm, a tone he must think is reassuring. Are you quite all right? That villain was incredibly dangerous, but luckily, I am here. I freeze under his touch. I want to slap his hand away, but the restraints hold me back. My body stays rigid, trembling with rage. I glare at him, letting the silence speak for me. He doesn't deserve my words. He doesn't even remember me. All Might's cheerful demeanor turns confused as he senses my aggression. Slipping his hand away, he abruptly turns his attention to someone else instead. I'm loaded into the ambulance. The sirens stay silent as we drive toward the hospital. The faint hum of the engine fills the empty space, but I feel trapped in my own head. The male paramedic leans over. What's your mother's name, son? His question snaps me back to reality, and dread crashes over me. Kentaro's family? His mother. She's going to find out her son is dead. My breath quickens. The panic claws at my chest, relentless and suffocating. The cycle repeats, over and over, until we arrive at the hospital. The sterile smell of antiseptic fills the air as I lie on the uncomfortable hospital bed. The fluorescent lights overhead buzz faintly, pressing down on me. I'm not injured. Not physically. The door bursts open, and my mom rushes in. Oh, Izuku. Her voice cracks as tears spill down her cheeks. She wraps her arms around me, holding me close, and I break all over again. We cry together, her soft sobs mixing with my gasping breaths. A knock at the door breaks the moment. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Midoriya," the doctor says, stepping in. We both glance up, and the doctor gives us a soft, knowing smile. "Your son's shock symptoms have been managed," she says gently. "This was a highly traumatic experience, and it's taken a toll on his body. After discharge, I recommend plenty of fluids, rest, and counseling. What he's been through." She pauses, glancing at me, her eyes full of sympathy. "No child should ever have to endure this. Only time will begin to heal these wounds." My mom nods, her hand gripping mine tightly. "Thank you." The doctor turns to me. "How does being discharged in about an hour sound?" The thought of leaving this suffocating room, overpowering lights and sterile walls, feels like a small relief. But I know the guilt, the pain, and the thoughts of Kentaro won't stay here. They'll follow me home. Still I nod. "Thank you, doctor," I croaked quietly. "All right," she replies, offering a faint smile. "A nurse will go over the discharge process with you soon. Rest well, Izuku. And I'm deeply sorry for your loss." She leaves the room, and the door clicks shut. I bury my face in my hands and cry again. Kentaro is dead, and it's all my fault.